Would you like to ski Antarctica, but you're snowed under at work? Do you dream of a vacation at the bottom of the ocean, but you can't foot the bill? Have you always wanted to climb the mountains of Mars, but now you're over the hill? Then come to Recall Incorporated, where you can buy the memory of your ideal vacation cheaper, safer, and better than the real thing. So don't let life pass you by. Call Recall for the memory of a lifetime.
For the memory of the lifetime. Recall.
Jesus.
Get out! Get out!
That was worse than when we practiced it. Jesus.
Out of my head.
Oh, God.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Science Fiction Remnant. I am your host, Robert.
This is Captain Chaos.
And Mad Scientist Ray down here in Australia.
And I do have to apologize for being inside your head.
In this form, sorry.
There is no escape. So what have you guys been watching?
Go, Robert. Tell us about Star Trek.
Go on, Robert. Go on.
Okay, I'm going to strip the Band-Aid out and say, yes, I am still watching Season 6 of Voyager. We're coming along, and it's sadly coming to an end.
Yeah!
Well, not the whole,
Yeah, no, I know that you're on Star Trek is like that old series movies that I used to watch called The Never Ending Story. Never ends.
Voyager is coming to an end, but there's others that we have on the docket to watch. But
And when you run out of that, then you're gonna go and just go through all the fan fiction too.
wow. My wife was saying the other day that she was planning to she was getting gung ho about watching this and trying to finish it. And I'm like, maybe you don't want to do that, because I did that a couple of times. And when you come to the end, I think, and I told you, Captain Chaos, this the other day, where I said Star Trek fools you because you see so many, movies, TV shows, and you think it's going to take you forever. But eventually it's going to end. And when it ends, you feel empty. So it kind of fools you because there's a lot out there, but once you're done, it's done. So I was kind of trying to warn my wife to, just enjoy it. Watch episodes.
You should both just start playing Star Trek Online then.
We've tried like 3 times, man, and we're not able to get into the same game.
No. You're talking about Bridge Crew.
Yeah.
We gotta play Star Trek Online.
Oh, let me know, man.
Yeah.
Which is like Pokemon for starships.
Yes.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, yes.
Man, I'm all about games.
And another thing that that I actually got my wife started on, it's on an IP that we actually covered. It's Trapped in the Dating Sim. So if you guys have not listened to that episode or watched it on YouTube, just go back to our back catalog and you can see our discussion on that IP. But yeah, she's halfway through that one.
Yeah, the sassiest AI robot I ever seen.
Man,
The second season is in production, guys. So we'll be covering that too.
you need to hurry up. I've been waiting way too long.
I've read all the light novels that have been translated, and it just gets wilder and wilder. It's really cool.
Oh man! And if the voice actor for that IP is listening, we the sass we need it in the show.
And where I'm up to in the light novels, he has 3 fiancées.
Oh wow!
I mean, the first season pretty much tells you who the first 2 are going to be, and it's just after the end of the first season where they get engaged. He's kind of forced into it.
Well, the way things are going, I think that's foreshadowing.
Oh yeah.
Oh god! And that's what I've been watching.
What have you?
What happened?
YouTube,
What have you been
you're disappearing on us.
Yeah, your video is good. It's just that your audio it goes out into, I think, Mars, right? Right?
Yeah,
Probably,
I
yeah.
think it's somewhere in the order
You
of
can
the
hear
orbit
me?
of Phobos.
Can you hear
It's
me?
come back.
Yes.
Okay. No, I was asking what Ray have been watching. Hopefully not Star.
Oh well, I've been watching Kaiju number 8.
Oh,
um,
nice. Is
This
that
this
their
week's
episode?
episode, yeah. It's the first half of the his final application, his final chance to get into the Kaiju Hunters.
I have an important question about that show.
Yeah.
Very, very important. You ready for
What
it?
is it? Yeah.
Is it Robert safe?
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of blood and guts, but it's not human blood and guts. It's kaiju blood and guts.
Oh, okay. In that case,
I
it's-
just don't matter.
In the first episode, he's put on intestine duty, and he's like, "Ah, shit." It's like
I
quite
definitely
literally.
suggest it. I think that Robert would like it. No
Okay.
sarcasm.
so it is Robert safe, right? We should come up with a label in here. You know, if it's Robert safe or not.
If it's not Robert safe, I would just tell Ray in the middle of whenever we're talking, just like,
Oh dear. So Kaiju number 8. I'm still trying to get through the second season of Log Horizon, but I think I'll do it very shortly. Which is also vaguely sci-fi because they were playing an online game and they got sucked into a world that was very similar to the game, which is interesting. At the moment, they're trying to contact the moon, so that's the shit that you do inside of a computer game. And not deliberately, but I've been catching a little bit of The Walking Dead. My wife has been binging it, and she's gone past where I got up to with the series, but I've seen a lot more of the comic, so I'm further along in that story. It's not true sci-fi. It's not. Oh, there it is. Your camera is reversed, Geo. Your mirror
always is reversed.
always.
Yeah, because chaos is chaos. Chaos will chaos, you know?
Well, he's the only one with a beard, so he must be in the mirror universe.
Oh, that's it. You're right.
Yes, The Walking Dead. That's the one. But yeah, so I've read up past the bit where they're in the walled the enclave, I think they called it. And then they have to fight that guy from the cement factory who has a baseball bat with a
what was
with
his
the
name? The one that killed Zen?
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Spoilers.
Spoilers are kind of late for spoilers.
I know. The seasons, the series finished like 5 or 6 years ago.
It's spoilers. Everybody in the world becomes a zombie, okay?
I think that what killed it for me was that they detoured from the original story from the comics in the series.
Yeah, I knew they were going to.
But
They just couldn't keep their shit together.
so I stopped right after the jail. I kind of stopped after that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I sort of lost interest in it when they went to that place that had the cult, which was non-canon. It was TV only. I kind of lost interest in that.
Yep.
I mean, you're in a world full of zombies, and then there's these people who want to eat you, and it's like, but you're not a zombie. You're still a human. What are you doing?
The thing. The funny thing about The Walking Dead is not about zombies. It's about how shitty people are to each other on a post-apocalyptic world.
Yes,
That's the hilarious thing about the show.
It's true.
That's why I think many of the people that like it, they're not necessarily zombie fans. They like the drama in between the people.
And it's not true sci-fi; it's speculative fiction, so it's adjacent.
Oh, so zombies are not sci-fi?
Well, it doesn't have a lot of science in it, put it that way. I mean, when we covered World War Z, it had science in it because they were trying to solve it. In that show, it was
Hey,
just,
there's an episode where they're trying to solve it in here. They even go to like a laboratory and shit. And
Days of Our Walkers.
yeah,
Hey, Harry Potter is sci-fi, okay?
imaginable.
Sure. Moving on, Chaos, what have you been watching / playing / doing?
Sci-fi. I I can only say that I've been playing Cyberpunk.
Cyberpunk.
That's the only sci-fi that I can attest for right now. I haven't really been watching anything else. Being a busy week, and I've been watching my typical documentary. Other than that,
The Matrix.
well, no, I haven't been watching The Matrix. I watch it once in a while, but it hasn't been long. Last week I did watch it. I've been
Whenever
watching
you
a lot
talk
of
about
videos.
documentaries, I just go to The Matrix or Idiocracy, one or the other.
Well, the documentaries that I like to watch, I think that it's a YouTube channel called Aperture. I'm not sure, but basically they like to do hypothetical scenarios of how human civilization would advance and thrive. The last one I was watching was what will happen if we become civilization type 3. But they're fun 41-hour long videos about like going into detail about how systematically that would change society and everything else.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah.
The linky me.
Hey, at least I'm gonna be ready when everybody goes crazy about because something happens. Hey, I remember I'm your friend.
I, for one, welcome our AI overlords.
Remember us, you know.
Utopia, no dystopia.
Time for our first segment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Here he goes. Our science fiction remnant.
This is the Funny Science Fiction Podcast.
We are the Caribbean Science Fiction Network.
We are Monorats.
We are One Accord Level 2 Podcast.
This is Jesse from Sudden But Inevitable and Open Pike Night.
This is Sci-Fi.
I gotta say, Robbie, you did an awesome job on that linker. I really like that one.
Thank you.
So this is Sci-Fi. It's a hashtag. It's a movement. It's an idea to get people from siloed little IPs that they focus on and have no clue about what else is out there.
I like better when you say movement. We do Pacific protest in the street too. Bring back the sci-fi.
Yeah, I think it's about time we had to bring back the sci-fi. But yeah, we're all about the sci-fi here on Science Fiction Remnant, and this was a hashtag that Robert came up with to try and link people into new and exciting sci-fi that they may not otherwise get to experience. So if you happen to see that hashtag, you know that people are trying to get people who don't know about a particular sci-fi IP to find out about it. So you know, as Robert has said in his long diatribes about Star Trek, it will inevitably come to an end because he'll run out of material. So once you run out of material, what do? Do you go back and start again, or do you have a look around and see what else is out there? So many great sci-fi IPs out there, stuff that you can check out. You can go to any streaming service and just put in sci-fi and see what's out there. But it's much better to find out what's good about an IP from a fan. And that's why we use the hashtag, so that people can find out from people who know what's so great about their favorite IP. And we can share them. And who knows, you might become a fan too. So give it a shot, find out what you can see, check it out on all the socials, have a look for the hashtag This is Sci-Fi, and share the love of sci-fi. But what I wanted to share myself this week is something that we picked up during the week for the Alita Army live stream and covered it on there, but I just thought I'd go over it here. This is a feature by GamesRadar.com, 32 sci-fi movies that deserve a sequel. And of course, they led with a picture of Tom Cruise in Edge of Tomorrow, which was a great little movie that has been covered by Science Fiction Remnant. And they actually were working on a sequel for that one. They have a treatment, but they haven't been able to get the actors together for that one. And then I think everybody got busy on other things and they just have let it rest at the moment. But yeah, they were working on a sequel for that one. But there's 32 here. I'll go through them very quickly. We've got Titan AE from 2000.
Yeah.
That's one we need to cover. That was a great little movie.
Love that
I
movie.
don't know that it needed a sequel. It kind of felt like it was capped off, but I mean, you could come up with another premise, some other threat to the fledgling colony. That could be quite fun to have a sequel of. Godzilla -1. Well, that was last year. Give them a chance. It takes a little while to get sequels going. There's been plenty of Godzilla movies over the last 20 years. I'm sure that there'll be more. So I think you'll see a sequel for that one, but you've got to give them time to knock that one out of the park. Here's one that could use a sequel because there's a whole lot of source material. It's Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy in 2005, which has been covered on this very show. And that was good fun. I do love Douglas Adams' writing. I've read all of his books. And I reckon that there's more than enough material to have a sequel for that one. Although, that was 20 years ago now, or 20 years next year. So the actors will look a lot different than they did at that time. Flash Gordon, 1980. That's an awesome classic sci-fi show, which has been covered on this show with a special guest who you may be seeing again sometime very soon.
Yes.
Won't spoil, but you can work that one out if you go back and listen to the Flash Gordon episode in our back catalogue. Great movie. Is a bit on the cheeseball side, but that was deliberate because Flash Gordon was actually a comic in the 1920s, I think. So it's got a long pedigree. The comic ran for many years, so there's lots of material. They could certainly expand upon what they did, but of course the actors are probably very much retired at this stage, so it would be a little bit difficult to get them back for that. Here's another movie we've covered, Upgrade, in 2018.
Yeah. Is not Robert safe?
Not Robert safe at the end. Most definitely not Robert safe. So I don't know where the sequel would go, but it would not be Robert safe.
We'll make you watch it.
I did like that movie. It certainly was clearly on the radar for both myself and Gio. And we could go for a sequel. I wouldn't mind that.
I'm jealous. I will never forgive you.
It's all your fault. The Black Hole, 1979. We have covered this movie because I really wanted to cover it. It's a great show, very dark places, which is surprising for a Disney movie. Probably the darkest Disney movie there is.
Well, it's a black hole. It has to be dark.
Pretty much. Pretty much. Now, speaking of a sequel to this, there was actually a comic that followed on from the end of the movie. It only had, I think, 3 issues, and it was about them trolling around in the scout ship that went through the black hole in another universe. And I think they ran into themselves at some point. It wasn't too bad. I mean, they could do a sequel, but I don't think it would have the same panache because, all the sort of high profile bad guys are gone. They're not dealing with a black hole anymore. They're just sort of trolling around another universe in a little ship. I don't know that a sequel would add anything to it, but it would certainly be possible.
Jumper. I love this movie, man.
Yeah, could you see a way for them to make a sequel? Was there any plot threads that were left loose?
Yeah, I would definitely think so.
Yeah.
Hell yeah! And this movie was a great idea, man.
Wasn't the sequel to Jumper Sliders? That's the way I look at it. 2011, Real Steel. We should cover that. Great. I thought it was a great movie personally, and I think it has a lot of legs for a sequel. It wouldn't be very hard to bring back
Hugh Jackman.
I can't remember their names now, but the guy and his son and the robot as they work their way up. The trials and tribulations. Basically, Rocky with robots. Literally, yeah. So they could do that. Could
this is Wolverine practicing before he got his titanium armor.
That's right. No, I've never seen this one. Shin Kamen Rider. Apparently, this is big in Japan, but I've never seen it. But it's more a kids show than sort of adult fare. But I suspect that they could go on forever with the source material because there was many seasons of this show apparently as an anime. So I'm sure that they're not short of material. They could make sequels to that. A Wrinkle in Time. Have either of you guys seen this one?
Robert.
Love it. I love it, and I want to cover it. And I know I have a lot to talk about this one. A lot.
Is it sci-fi or are we talking?
Yeah, this is Alice in Wonderlands with some gears, so it's sci-fi, right, Robert?
This
Okay.
is Alice in Wonderland with quantum technology and transportation, and yes, it goes deep. So
Just remember, the technology is sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle.
It's salt and pepper technology. Make sure you put the right amount on.
yes, I love
So
how I love how in this movie they're trying to explain to kids what kind of like warping space travel would be like. So yeah, it's a movie I want to cover.
So why does this lady here have booster rockets?
Because when they're trying to explain about warping space, the mechanism that makes it happen is sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle.
No, that's a joke.
They're from the Hunger Games, you know. They had to find a use for that expensive, ridiculous outfit that they had in the Hunger Games, so they just recycle it.
That is a
So,
joke.
so this is recycling the movie.
Probably better than Avatar: The Last Airbender.
So Robert, do you think that there's legs for this to have a sequel?
Hopefully not.
I would love to. I think they could, because of the topic.
Yeah, but imagine you're asking to the person that wants Star Trek to never end.
No, but let's go with this. Ray, watch it the next time you can, and we'll talk about it on Discord, and you let me know if you agree with me or not. And of course, if you are listening to the show or watching it on YouTube and you are not in the Discord, go ahead and join us. The link is in the description, and go ahead and tell us if you've seen the movie. Join the conversation that we are about to have. If you have not watched the movie, go ahead and watch it, and then come back and let us know if you agree on what we're saying right here. So join up. Oh boy, you touched my heart right here.
Yeah. Everybody says this. It is the only movie that came from what was considered a failed series. So Firefly was the series. It was completely screwed by Fox Television, and Serenity was the redheaded stepchild, which was a great movie but didn't do as well as it should have, and the show went kaput, which is a real shame. But I think it had a lot of legs, and there's been talk about trying to resurrect it again and again and again, but it's in reboot territory after 20 years. So
yeah,
it's a shame. Because Summer Gala was great.
Oh yeah,
Hancock.
I love this movie, and I don't know why. Every time I mention that, I get the hateful eyes. And I want to cover it, but I really love this movie. I like the take, the like personal take before its time on what it was to be a superhero and the things that they go through. And this is prior to The Boys. I mean, I'm sure we could see this in The Boys now, but this is like 2008.
Do you think that this movie was the concept for The Boys?
Definitely.
I don't know. I would let other people answer that question.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they are heroes, but they're a bunch of anti-heroes, if you think about it. They are their own individuals. A hero will sacrifice anything for the greater good. These guys are just normal people with superpowers.
Let me put it this way: this guy
I can relate to them, actually.
This guy is drunk all the time, and yeah, it's it's very. I like it because it's refreshing because you see the human side of superheroes. So I don't
So
know.
super in ability, if not mentality.
Yeah.
I do remember this movie. It came out around the same time as my super ex girlfriend.
Oh, I love that movie.
Very much on the same vein,
Yes.
gender swapped. But basically, I thought the arc was kind of done for. Like they'd done the arc. I mean, he'd have to fall back into his ways, his bad ways, and have to climb out again. And I think that's the only thing they could do for a sequel to try and make it fit the bill. I mean, I don't know where they would go now after
Do you
him.
think they could go forever? Because the thing is, like, when he gets together, they had to be apart, and they end up together again. Then they be apart, and I don't know. I was thinking about that.
It's been a real big thing that superheroes who are almost indestructible, they always go for their loved ones. Oh, I'm going to kill your wife, or I'm going to kill whoever you're interested in because I can't kill you. And it's a classic evil villain.
Gotta hurt in some way.
Yeah, it's a trope that's been played to death. So I mean, it's probably the only place they could go, which is kind of why I don't think Hancock really needs a sequel, but it could be possible if you were, scraping the bottom of the barrel.
To be honest with you, I wouldn't be upset if there's none. It's I don't know. And this is hard for me to say because it seems like I want a sequel out of everything. I think I agree with you. The story is told and is done.
Yeah, much like this one, Oblivion in 2013. Good movie.
Yes.
It's got some great sci-fi aesthetics and sort of like post-apocalyptic sort of flavor to it. And they kind of dealt with the problem, but I mean, more of the problem could show up. I won't spoil, but yeah, I mean, they could do a sequel. I don't know if it would be as effective as a story, but it certainly could be there. And I mean, Tom Cruise.
It's story.
Tom Cruise keeps popping up on this list.
So. You can just dump your wife and get a clone. Great solutions for big problems in society.
You tell why Gio's single.
And she doesn't remember anything.
Dear. Now, this is a movie I wanted to see, but I haven't got around to yet. Underwater from 2020.
Haven't watched it.
Yeah.
Me neither.
It's on my list. I haven't watched it. So this has got H.P. Lovecraft vibes, which probably means it's not Robert safe. But I wouldn't mind watching it.
But it got squeezed in sewer. Maybe Robert will like it.
If any of our listeners know about Underwater 2020, jump on our Discord and let us know if it needs a sequel or not.
Yeah, and let us know if it's Robert safe or not.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it isn't. Anything with H.P. Lovecraft's like, nope, Robert, nope. In a Space, 1987, we have covered this. It was a great little romp, but I kind of feel like it was finished. The bad guys were dragged off to jail in their miniaturized forms, and
hey, bad guys always can escape from jail.
You know, I was just gonna say that, Gio. I think they could somewhat revive this with another. Apparently, the technology is there, right? So maybe another villain is able to get a hold, and then we have to have another hero to save the day. I think this could come back, but maybe with a different storyline, with different villains, different hero, or should I say anti-hero, because he was always drunk. But I don't know.
Well, I think it was long enough ago now that their kids could get involved.
Yes.
They've done that before, a la Ghostbusters Afterlife, etc. But yeah, I could see a sequel for that one. The one from 2001. Yeah, I did. I love this movie. We need to cover this one. We should need
great soundtrack too.
And why haven't we not covered it yet? I don't understand it. I don't.
Why hadn't we covered the movie we're doing today yet? That's a very good question.
But and I can say this is Robert safe for all of you out there. And I don't think this could come back though.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, they kind of wrapped it up, didn't they?
It's
That will
one.
be pushing it for this one.
There's only
This movie is the one, people.
the one.
It's a one and done. The one is the one and done.
Maybe the sequel would be called a 2.
The
Maybe.
two.
Maybe he has a kid, and it's the two.
Guys,
So
what's the problem
I
with
was
like
gonna say that-
intergenerational messed up inherited problems? Why you want to give the
exactly.
kids problems?
Well, the kid, it could be called the 2 ... right?
I know now why people don't want to have kids anymore, because people like you want to just throw the problems of past generations into the youth.
If you show there's a storyline, it's all your kids' fault.
Don't have kids, so Robert Ray will make sure that they get into World War III.
And before we continue, I just want to say out here, because I'm sure that if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see the scroll at the bottom. But if you're not, we have our hotline is 305-563-6334. You can join our conversation. Out of every movie that we're talking about right now, you can just give us a call and we'll play it in our next episode.
It's a hotline, but if you want to get the hotline treatment, we might charge you per minute for that, okay?
Are you
Only
sure that's
Gians.
only Gions?
We'll talk dirty to you. Don't worry.
Isn't that only Gions?
Only Giants? No, that's another thing, man.
Oh, okay. Just checking.
I was going to say that from what you have read of my novel in progress so far, fellas, that you can probably tell that this movie influenced it.
Yes. I can definitely see that.
It's certainly in there. Chronicle 2012. I'm told it's good.
I liked it.
Haven't watched it.
It's unique. I never seen this perspective before. I don't know that it could have a second though. I think the story was told, but I don't know. If you guys are listening out there and you feel otherwise, you can join the Discord or call the hotline.
Yep, let us know what you think. Certainly, this movie needs a sequel.
Yeah.
Those things.
We need a part 2. We need a part 3. We need a part 4. We need TV series.
An anime.
About Xeon. We got another TV series about her life in Mars. We need another TV series about the military force. Should I continue?
I'm completely on board for all of them.
I'm not even talking about anime, the movies for each of those TV series, the movie for the anime. So if you're listening, James Cameron,
Get it, Robert. You're in Team Ray. We get it.
I've trained him well.
They're gonna gang up on me today.
Yeah, we sure are. So, of course, the movie we're talking about is Elita Battle Angel from 2019. Fantastic movie, fantastic source material, the manga Gumu or Battle Angel Alita. Check it out if you haven't already. You will not be disappointed. It's peak cyberpunk.
And
And
remember the 2 hashtags, Alita Army and hashtag Hugo is a wimpy little bitch.
And I wanted to say before we move on to the next one that we have covered the movie and we have covered the anime of the Elita Battle Angel. So all you have to do is go down to our back catalog. It is actually on season 1, so you have to kind of scroll a little farther down, and then you get a first. The first-hand experience of what our first opinion was on that movie. So
your first opinion of that movie was why I'm here, because I had to fix it.
Yes. So go in and enjoy
The
it.
number of things you said that was wrong was
to record.
well, you
dear.
thought he's aging well.
Yep.
Okay.
I remember Ray's entry comment when he heard that one. He's like, "You guys got so many good things right and so many things wrong."
Yep.
Nice. Awesome.
It was amazing. But yeah, check it out. See what you think. See if you agree with them. I certainly didn't on all the points. But, this Now, this particular movie, it was a great little movie. Some of the actors are now dead, so it's going to be very hard to do a sequel to The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Fakes.
But I thought it was a great idea, and they should have run with it at least for 2 more movies. It was so Indiana Jones-esque that I could see it serialized.
Yeah, I agree.
Easily. But unfortunately, it didn't happen.
That's what Cyberpunk. The cars with 2 wheels in the front and each side.
Yeah. Because it makes a whole lot of difference.
Yeah.
I love Jupiter ascending. Stagnant.
Doesn't it descend?
It was a very original idea. I felt that having somebody who was heir to a galaxy-spanning empire had got the shits with the whole idea and was cleaning toilets in Manhattan hotels.
Yeah, and then going back to it.
Wow, she got dragged back to it.
He's like, I don't want to rule the universe. Leave me alone with my toilets.
I really like this movie. I actually have it on 3D, which was really, really cool to watch in 3D. But I really like this movie, and I think we could have a part 2, and possibly with the same actors.
It was meant to be multi movie material, but the first one didn't do well enough. And I think that I don't know whether it was the way it was cut, or the director was having a bad day near the end of the movie. But I don't know. The end of it just seemed a bit flat. I think they could have done a better job, which is a shame, really. But I did like Jupiter Ascending, and it was meant to be multi-movie material. So there's material there for future installments. They just didn't make enough money to warrant.
Galaxy Quest, yeah.
I'm on the fence for sequels for Galaxy Quest. The original was fantastic and stands alone as a love letter to Star Trek.
It's interesting. I agree with you on there. I want more. I want more, and I am afraid.
You know what's the funny thing? I got the hots for the twin girl because she's actually from Kyle X1, which is a great show, and she's beautiful actress. Actually,
you just want the tentacles. Admit it. You're a sucker for the tentacles.
Look, we talk about that on Only GNs and my hentai side job with podcast.
Okay, yes. don't want to get nuked from YouTube.
If you guys think that I haven't watched any hentai with tentacles, go to Discord and go to the shitpost section and send them my way.
Not suitable for work, only for the brave.
Moving on.
Yes. So now Galaxy Quest was wonderful. I could see them doing a sequel, but I don't think it would be on the level that the first one was, just because all the surprises are sort of out of the box.
You don't want it to do some kind of Matrix resurrection kind of disaster.
Yeah, right? basically, yeah. But it was a very good movie, and we have covered it. Now, here's a little gem that we probably should cover.
I love
The Rocketeer, 1991. And this was very Indiana Jones-esque as well. I could see multiple outings for this movie.
I want to see a TV show out of this one.
Yeah.
It has a lot.
I think it was raw enough that they could afford to do a TV show out of it. It wasn't anything too spectacular.
You should not trust the advice of somebody that watches Doctor Who and Star Trek for more TV shows.
Oh, come on.
Have you seen this movie, Gio?
No, I haven't, but I watched the trailer with you, actually, and it looks like a fun movie.
Oh, it is.
I believe it's on Disney Plus. Watch it, and let's get on Discord and talk about it. I really want to hear your opinion on this one.
Okay.
I think it's great, and I think they could have done sequels. It would have been really cool.
Not Robert Safe.
Brightburn.
I haven't watched that one.
I got to say, I haven't seen it yet. I watched the trailers a few times, but it just didn't quite grab me. But basically, what was Superman was evil. So, yeah, messy.
All right. I'm sold.
So like The Boys, but deliberate. So I don't know. I haven't seen it. Now here's one that needs a sequel. In fact, there was a treatment for District 10, but it never got into production. So,
and we covered it in the show. So you got to go back to our back catalog. You'll find it there.
Yeah, this one is a good one.
I like mockumentaries. It's pretty good. Edge of Tomorrow, as I said, it's already had an attempt at a sequel, but they couldn't get the actors together, and then it got shelved. I don't know. It kind of felt like it was done at the end of the movie, but
I mean, I have good advice for whoever wants a sequel of this. Just replay it right after it finishes.
just rewind to the middle of the movie and watch again.
Yeah.
I love this movie. I love the anime. And if you guys haven't watched the anime, it's a French anime. I love anything to do with this thing. And yes, I understand. Every time I mention that, I get hate because everywhere you go, including how much money this made, it tells how like this movie how bad it is, how much it sucks. I love it.
I don't think the premise or the story sucked. I just think that the main characters, the actors that played them, were a bit too blasé about it. It just doesn't seem to have any sort of emotional resonance. It's like they were almost phoning it in, which was a shame, because I think it could have been good. But I mean, it's Luc Besson who did Fifth Element, which we've covered, and the Fifth Element had a lot of good emotional depth and the right amount of comedy and seriousness. And this movie had all the comedy, but the seriousness just wasn't there. And that's why it didn't feel very balanced. Now, I can't speak to the anime or the comics, but I don't think the movie landed as well as it could have. If they'd had different leads for it, I think maybe it would have done better. But,
this was a comic book, and they made it into an anime, which is in Crunchyroll. I did find a comic book in Amazon. So I if you haven't, at least the anime you should watch. And I think because I watched the original anime, I can appreciate the movie a little better and how they were acting and like what the characters were like. Um, which is kind of weird though, because usually when you watch the original and you go back and watch which this would be the remake, it typically it doesn't do any justice. Uh, but this one is kind of unique to me, and that's the reason why I think if you watch the anime, it gives you a little different perspective when you watch the movie.
you'll have to link me to the anime.
It's actually in Crunchyroll, but yes, I'll go ahead and put in a link on it.
Cool. Stick it in our anime section of the Discord. Saban's Power Rangers 2017. Haven't seen it, unfortunately, so I can't comment on it. Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow. Again, that's sort of retro futurism in around the Second World War, but there's a lot of dirigibles, there's a lot of airships, and they're actually launching planes from the airships, so they're like flying aircraft carriers, but in World War II. And I found it a very interesting sort of story and a premise. There was also a game that was very much like this. But I really enjoyed it, and I thought that they could have almost serialized it. It was sort of in the same vein as those one line 4-panel comics that they used to have in the newspapers back in the day. It was that sort of feeling to it, and I think they could have had a sequel easily.
I enjoyed it. I really did.
No, we don't need a sequel to this movie.
Yes. It's technically rubber safe, and not at the same time. If that makes any sense. And yes, I really like this movie. Don't ask me why, but if you want to hear us talk about it, we did have an episode on it. So
It is a very good movie. I love my horror sci-fi. This is Event Horizon. I don't think I mentioned that, but it's a great movie. But I don't think it needs a sequel. It kind of felt like it was done. But I mean, it kind of felt like Alien was done, and then Aliens came out. It was fucking awesome. So you just can't tell with these things.
I think part 2 could be called Black Hole.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Black
they
hole.
enter the event horizon, so now we want to know what happens inside the black hole. So,
Or you could call it Beyond the Event Horizon.
there you go. That has us. Oh, Dark City.
We need to cover this. This is
Dark
great,
City.
sort of dark, nightmarish sci-fi.
I believe isn't this one has my crush from the 80s? I think this movie has my crush from the 80s when I was a teenager.
It was filmed in Sydney. I can actually tell you where some of the scenes were filmed in this movie. But yeah, it was a great little sort of mystery sci-fi, dark sci-fi movie. Well worth the watch. It's kind of one of those. It's got a reveal at the end that you go, aha. And you can never quite get that back when after you've seen it the first time. But I do feel that it was a good movie. We probably should cover it. Yeah. I mean, I presume they could do a sequel, but I wouldn't know what they'd do it about because they kind of escaped.
Maybe Light City.
Maybe.
I still have to watch this one.
Oh,
you do.
You
You need to watch it.
You have to.
We got to cover this. We got to cover Dark City. It's great. Now here's a movie that deserves a sequel pretty much as Elita Battle Angel does, and that is Dread in 2012.
On the law.
But whereas when Sylvester Stallone did it, he insisted on taking his helmet off and being helmetless for a good chunk of the movie, which was not how Dread operated. And then you go to this version of Dread, and he didn't take the helmet off at all for the whole movie, which was completely in line with the character. So, I mean, this version is way more accurate to the comics than the first one ever was. But it was just such a small snapshot of the amount of storytelling that was available in Mega City 1. And I would love to see a sequel to this movie. Absolutely love it. I mean, it's my number 2 needs a sequel after Alita Battle Angel is Dread. So bring it on. That's all I can say.
I agree with that one.
And it is number 2 on this list. So there you go. And number 1, there you go.
Yes.
There you go. Number 1. John Carter, 2012. It was a real shame that the director lost his marbles while they were finishing this one up, insisting on the title being John Carter and the lack of love that it was shown in the advertising. It is a good movie. I really enjoy it, and it could have had a lot of legs. I mean, there's 12/13 books, depending on who you talk to, and there's plenty of material to go on with. So, this could have well had a sequel.
Chaos, how many books?
11 books.
No, 12.
13?
Sorry, what do you
40? 50? But yeah, John Carter. Would love to see a sequel to that. It was a great little show. We have covered it, pretty sure.
Yeah, one of our most listened episodes.
There you go. But yeah, great movie. Check it out if you haven't seen John Carter already, or as I call him, the Flea of Mars. And
Virginia.
So that's a good one to finish on because it's set on Mars. Well, mostly set on Mars, and we're going to a movie now that's mostly set on Mars. So there you go. There you have it. My complete derailment of the episode.
Do you see how the astronaut said, "There you go"?
Awesome. So I guess it's safe to say that we're good to go for the next segment.
Yeah. Smash it out.
for these shout outs, actually, I'm going to make it quick but concise. I'm going to give shout outs to two podcasts that I really like very much. One of them I know that Ray and Robert too like. Robert is not very Tarantino person, so I get it. But he's Making Tarantino, the podcast, and the Jacked Up Reviews Show podcast. I'm quoting them here, mentioning them from Twitter, X. Go and check them out for sure. Stop right now and go and check them out. Especially Jacked Up Review Show podcast. I love listening to Cam, and
Yeah.
I love his energy, all the insight that he has to bring, and his commentaries about the movies that he talks about. It's been fun having him here and being on his show a couple of times. So go and check them out for sure. And if you want us to give you a shout out, just be active on our social medias, and I'll be sure to make an impression on our audience for you and make you like face palm yourself. And that's all for today's shout outs.
I don't know. Do you really want to do that?
Hell yeah, man. If we're not gonna get audience, I'll make sure that I actually scare them off. Scarecrow tactics.
Scare them off. There you go.
Got to be brave.
Yeah, brave. We brave here. Okay, so let's dig in. I don't know that I'm ready for this, but here we go. Do we have a plot?
No, we've got another segment.
Oh, okay. So
You missed the segment.
before we do the plot, okay, before we do the plot,
The Alita Army news.
Thank you. Beginning to wonder what had happened to it. Oh dear. So I've mentioned Alita today already a couple of times, but just backtracking slightly, you would be aware by now that there's the Radio Chaos live stream on YouTube on the Alita Army channel, where we're keeping the IP alive and making sure that people don't forget about it because we want sequels. And of course, everybody on this podcast is very keen for that to happen. We're up to episode 211 of Radio Chaos, which was an open discussion forum for 2024. Basically, bring your questions and we'll try and find some answers. And we had a bunch of questions asked from do the main players in the first movie still want to make a sequel? What the hell is going on with Disney? Why are they so stupid? Questions like this. Two questions about who should play various characters. Like the big question is who should play Figure 4, which is Alita's love interest, which will probably be in either the end of the second movie or the bulk of the third. So there was a lot of interesting question and answers and discussions. And the big question, when is the sequel going to be greenlit? We don't have an answer for that. I wish we did. But one of these days is about all I can say. So yeah, it was a good episode. Check it out on the Alita Army channel on YouTube, where you can find episode 211 and 209 other episodes because 168 didn't get recorded for some reason. It's the missing ghost episode. So. Lots of fun.
awesome.
Moving on.
Moving on.
I'm borrowing that line from you, Robert.
There you go. There you go.
So yeah, the movie we're covering today, I know we've talked about a lot of movies already in this episode, but it is Total Recall from 1990, not the 2000s version, which was a pretty much completely different story with some similar plot points, but it was a completely different story all set on Earth. So this one is about Mars. Oh, I love Mars. So
No, really.
Stories about Mars are awesome.
Or is it?
Or is it?
Or-
Wow, that's a good question. That's a very good question. That is the $65 million question. I say $65 million question because that was a budget for the movie.
Yeah.
And the box office was in the ballpark of 261.4 million. So it was a profitable show. And
He made a lot
Got a
of
bit of a cult following.
yeah.
He made Kenga. So yeah. So I will just go over the plot, and then we can start digging into the detail. So in 2084, so still got 50 odd years to go, 50 something. But Mars is a colonized world under the tyrannical regime of Vilos Cohagen, who controls the mining of a valuable terbidium ore. On Earth, construction worker Douglas Quaid experiences recurring dreams about Mars and a mysterious woman. Intrigued, he visits Recall with a K, a company that implants realistic false memories, and chooses one set on Mars with a blue sky, where he is a Martian secret agent. However, before the implantation is completed, Quaid lashes out, already thinking he's a secret agent. Or did he? Believing Cohagen's agency has suppressed Quaid's memories, and Recall employees erase evidence of Quaid's visit and send him home. En route, Quaid is attacked by men led by his colleague Harry from his work because Quaid unknowingly revealed his past. Quaid's instincts take over and he kills all of the assailants in a bloody massacre. At home, he's assaulted by his wife Laurie, who claims she was assigned to monitor Quaid by the agency, and their marriage is a false memory implant. He flees but is pursued by an army of men led by Richter, Cohagen's operative, and Laurie's real husband. Yes, there's a bit of NTR going on in this movie. A man who claims to be Quaid's former acquaintance gives him a suitcase containing supplies and a video recording in which Quaid identifies himself as Hauser.
No. An old lady tries to steal it first.
Oh, yeah, that was a possible quote.
And the best part is when she says, like, fuck you. And then he goes, like, that was the best.
It was. Quaid identifies himself as Hauser, Cohagen's ally who defected after falling in love. According to the recording, Cohagen brainwashed Hauser to become Quaid and conceal his secrets before securing him on Earth. Hauser instructs Quaid to return to Mars and stop Cohagen. On Mars, Quaid evades Richter and, following a note from Hauser, travels to Venusville, a district populated by humans and those mutated by air pollution and radiation. He meets Melina, the woman from his dreams. It's always nice to be able to meet the woman of your dreams.
Melina.
Who knows him as Hauser and believes he is still working for Cohagen. In his hotel room, Quaid is confronted by Laurie and Dr. Edgemar from Recall, who explain that Quaid is still at Recall on Earth, trapped in a fantasy memory. Quaid notices Edgemar is sweating and, believing he is actually real, kills him. Quaid is captured by Richter's men, but Melina rescues him and Quaid kills Laurie. The pair escape with a taxi driver, Benny, to Venusville. Now, it's very interesting that Laurie, they haven't mentioned it here, but Laurie is actually Richter's wife. So having her killed really pisses Richter off. So Richter wants him dead. Quaid notices I've already said that. Yeah. The mutants lead them to a hidden rebel base where Quaid meets their leader, Quato, a mutant growing out of the abdomen of his brother, George. Quato psychically reads Quaid's mind, learning that Cohagen is hiding a 500,000-year-old alien reactor built into Pyramid Mountain that, once activated, produces breathable air but could also destroy all terbidium on the planet, ending Cohagen's monopoly over both resources. Benny shoots George, revealing himself to be in Cohagen's employ, and Cohagen's forces attack the base, killing the rebels. Quato implores Quaid to start the reactor before Richter executes him. Cohagen disables Venusville's air supply to slowly suffocate the remaining inhabitants. Well, he actually did that a bit earlier, but they were suffocating. Quaid and not so good. Quaid and Melina were brought to Cohagen, who explains that Hauser was his close friend who volunteered to become Quaid as an elaborate ruse to bypass the mutant's psychic abilities, infiltrate the rebellion, and destroy it. Quaid's recall visit has activated him earlier than planned, and Cohagen has been helping him to survive the oblivious Richter's pursuit. Cohagen orders Hauser's memories to be restored in Quaid and Melina to be reprogrammed to be his subservient lover, but they manage to escape to the mines below the reactor. Benny, Richter, and his men attack them, but the pair outwit and kills them all, as you know you get to do in these sort of action
Give it to
movies.
me.
I'll see you at the party, Richter. Give the man a hand. Cohagen awaits them in the reactor control room, claiming that activating it will destroy the planet. He sets off an explosive, but Quaid throws him down a tunnel, creating a breach to the Martian surface. The explosive decompression blows Cohagen out onto the surface, where he suffocates and dies in a very graphic way. Quaid activates the reactor before he and Melina are also blown out onto the surface. The reactor melts the planet's ice core into gas that bursts to the surface, forming a breathable atmosphere and saving Quaid, Melina, and the rest of Mars's population. As everyone beholds the now blue sky, Quaid momentarily wonders if everything was a dream before he and Melina kiss. Roll credits. How very Matrix of you. Or should I say Matrix was very how Total Recall of you.
Yes.
Because this was first.
Definitely. Matrix is very Total Recall.
But of course, this was at the height of Arnold Schwarzenegger's popularity as an action star, and he got very actiony in this. There's lots of blood and gore and shot people, and stupid people firing guns inside of domes that broke and then let the atmosphere out.
Christ. The second time that the guy was gonna do it, I was like, how fucking stupid somebody has to be. Even his team.
But I'm gonna kill you. You killed my wife.
Us.
Yeah, but you're gonna die too.
Well, I do want to say this, right? And this is coming all straight from my head. I don't think you can find this anywhere written in Google. But I'm going to say this because I want to get your opinion as well as the audience's opinion. So if you agree or disagree, reach out to us on our Discord or call the hotline or reach out to us on X, Twitter. So I believe this is the continuation to the John Carter Chronicles.
He's gonna go there.
I'm gonna go there. So if you read the book, the first book, which is Princess of Mars, by Edgar Burroughs, you realize that at the end they tell you the reason why there is a civilization on Mars. They have what they call the atmosphere machine, which towards the end of the book, that's one of the things that John Carter was trying to. I think the villain on this scene, and I'm trying not to say much because I really encourage you guys to read the book. There's a villain that tried to turn that atmosphere machine off. And if that is turned off, all life on Mars will die because they will not have atmosphere, they will not have air, and everybody will suffocate. So after I read the 12 books, yes, 12 books, 12. I would imagine that after this was around the 1800s. So again, there's a lot of ifs in here, but I just want to hear your opinion on this, right? So this is around the 1800s, 1900, like maybe early 1900s, right? But mostly on the 1800s. Somehow that machine broke or someone was able to turn it off finally. And then we fast forward to 2084 when people on Earth, like colonized Mars, discovered this machine, the atmospheric machine, which is what we see at the end of the film. And this is what our Total Recall hero was able to turn on, returning the atmosphere and the air to Mars. So, what do you guys think about that? And it's a shame you guys don't have not read book one to get all the details.
Well, that's the thing. I don't remember the book one. The thing about the machine. I think that it's stained in my memory. The movie, because they blurred three books on the first movie.
And they do cover it in the 2009 movie Princess of Mars, which was a really, really bad beat movie. Very, very easy, but I still
But they didn't cover it in the Disney one, did they?
no. I
That's
think
why.
the 2009 followed the book a lot more than the Disney's. Disney, what it did, it followed the first three books.
Yeah, they mesh it.
Mhm.
But that's why it doesn't jive. Because if I would have seen it on the movie, it would have refreshed my memory. But the problem is that reading through all the books, I got more taken away when he went to the River of Isis and started dealing with what was the name of the Therns.
Yeah, but see, the Therns doesn't come up until later. They don't show up in book one.
Yeah, but in the movie of Disney, the bald guy that was a bad guy, he was
Mhm.
a Thern.
Exactly.
I mean, and these fuckers are the most OP shit. Like they just make things out of their mind. Like,
Yeah.
like they are the most bored species in the world, and I don't blame them. And then the creepy like Medusa head with one eye things that were inside the River Isis.
Yeah.
You know, like I think that when I was reading the books and I get to that part, I kind of forget everything else because that's the good thing about how Edgar Rice Burroughs write books too. It's like it keeps you in the present. It keeps you hooked too on what's going on and what's to come.
So, based on the explanation, and I know it's a shame you guys don't, or in your case, Chaos, you don't remember. In your case, Ray, you haven't read the books. So you have only my words to follow. Um, what is your thought on what I just said? Does it make sense to you? I mean, I know I'm reaching. I know if you guys open Google, you're not going to find it.
Nah, you're doing that, Robert?
It's just an observation. An observation
All
that.
you're going to get on Wikipedia is a stub.
So
I think it's a fair comparison though, Robert, because I mean the fact that it's such an old device, it's excusable to say that hey, it could be leaked. You know, it's 500,000 years old, and John Carter is based only not even 300 years before that.
And the machine was already old when John Carter I mean, they had one single guy doing the maintenance on this machine. And it was always, kind of on the brink of breaking because it was so old.
And honestly, I think that they did an artful thing when it came to how the machinery is made. It's kind of like ancient alien technology because it's made out of carved perfectly stones. You know.
I don't know. I think we broke Ray. He's thinking too hard.
Ancient alien MacGuffins,
Well, yeah,
they could recycle them.
Have you guys ever watched Bill Cosby?
Yeah.
Yes.
The guy that talks about ancient alien technologies and stuff. It's a black guy. He's a lot in Gaia TV, I think, and he talks about like ancient civilizations and things like that. It's called Bill Cosby. Very cool guy. Yeah.
The only Bill Cosby I know is a comedian.
Yeah.
Bill Carson. I'm sorry, Bill Carson.
Okay.
Hey, it was close, right?
Okay.
I was a little lost there. Sorry about that.
It was close. Carson Cosby. Cousins. But you never watched Bill Carson, actually?
No.
Definitely suggested. I think you might like it. He's very interesting, dude. He talks about a lot about ancient civilizations and like he roots it out with history, ancient history, but like it keeps you thinking. You know, it's very interesting to watch.
Nice. I was trying to find. I guess I don't know. I like to hear from Ray, but I wanted to mention
He left him speech.
Billy Carson.
Bill Carson.
Well, there's a Billy Carson who talks about ancient Egyptian history.
That's one of the many things. He talks a lot about the Anunnaki and the Enkis, like the sky people, ancient technology, civilizations, things like that.
Yeah.
Billy Carson.
In the book, John Carter, The Princess of Mars book. You want to go back to chapter From Joy to Death, and that's where I'm pulling my references from. Unfortunately, I have the digital copy, so I can't really tell you what page number. But if you go to the chapter list, From Joy to Death, that would be the chapter.
Well, what we really need is for Elon Musk to find the ancient alien technology to make an atmosphere, because he's going to need one.
Yeah. Because the way that they're planning, it's not going to last long.
No, it is not.
Even if you heat it up, it's just way too many things wrong with the planet to be able to keep it. Yeah.
Well, maybe because they're like superheating the core of the planet with turbidium by burning it all at once. Maybe that will heat up the core and get it moving again and recreate the magnetic field.
Yep.
I'm being very generous here. But...
Yes. Oh, yeah. We know. But
it could be that the aliens bought the turbinium and put it there, because it doesn't sound like something we've seen on Earth. So it may not even be native to the solar system. And they could have put the turbinium in there to melt the glacier, and they never turned the thing on for whatever reason. But they'd also planned that the heat from burning the turbidium, or whatever you do with it, would also heat up the core of the planet again and get it spinning. I mean, we are very lucky here on Earth that we are the size that we are, because that maintains the core of the Earth. There's enough decaying, and basically like uranium and things like that, that's keeping it warm down there. So, but Mars was too small. The heat from the core escaped over time, and the core cooled down, and then it stopped spinning, and then they lost their magnetic layer, and then the solar winds suck the atmosphere away. So reproducing an atmosphere, it's a good first step, but you've got to protect it from the solar winds.
Yeah. And I have another proof. I mean, maybe the Tarks had a hand in there, because if you look at Total Recall, the big, huge button they had to press to turn the machine on, that awfully looks like the hand of a Tark. Martian Tark. I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at it and it's like, I go ahead, if you have the time, go to Google and look up Tarks from John Carter, and look at their hands, and then compare to the image of that big ball that had the imprint of the alien hand, the one that our protagonist pressed to turn the machine on. I don't know. It's awfully alike.
That's true.
So that's my take. I'm sticking to that because it makes a lot more sense in my head.
Yeah, but it's true, actually. It makes sense, the comparison. They look alike. I mean, I was weirded out when I don't know I should put the hand activated. I would think that it would not work.
Yeah.
It didn't look like a human hand at all.
Well, if it didn't work, they were screwed, because they're about to lose all their oxygen anyways.
Oh, yeah. But the big question is, did they? I
thought that he was going to wake up in the Total Recall place.
Exactly. I mean,
the movie, just to completely swirl the mind screw, the mental intercourse that this movie was.
For all we know, the entire movie happened on that chair, and he hasn't waken up yet.
Yep.
He had, what do they call that? I forget the name.
Psychosis thing?
Yes.
Psychotic embolism.
Yeah. For all we know, that was the psychotic embolism that was the entire movie.
Psychotic embolism. How to make you feel crazy.
But that's one of the things that I and we'll get to the first question in just a few minutes here. But that's one of the things that I wonder the very first time that I watched this film. is that they don't, and I don't think there's anything out there that you can Google that tells you from anyone that mentions, about that. But um this, they don't give you anything.
No.
It's all up to you. And the way that it was displayed, you could go either way. You could go with the fact that maybe this is all in his head, or maybe uh, he woke up, he had a nice experience, went back home to his wife, or maybe he ended up going to the hospital because he had the psychotic uh,
Cheat without cheating.
event happening, and this is what we don't know. That's how they ended the movie. What do you guys think about that?
I will venture to even say that Inception grabbed a lot of inspiration from this movie. Definitely.
Yeah.
That
So-
that loop of you don't know what really happens.
Yeah.
And I think I don't remember much of the movie. I need to rewatch it, but Vanilla Sky does the same thing too. Because it's like it goes like inside of a dream, inside of a dream, inside of a dream so many times that it kind of brings that Matrix sense of you don't know in which plane of reality you are. If you are in the real actual plane, or if you are in one of the 100 floors and in a dream beside a dream beside a dream, right? And it's
For
kind of what it does at the end of the movie.
for all we know, that doctor that came in asking him to take the red pill, he was the real doctor, and that was the last attempt to bring him back to reality.
I think that they intended to make sure that you didn't think that because of how he was nervous. You know, I think that it was very.
Well,
Huh?
I was going to say that the story that he purchased, that Doug Quaid purchased for his recall ego trip, was called Blue Sky on Mars.
Yeah.
And at the very end,
Yes. Blue Sky on Mars.
the guy who came in and said, I'm one of the doctors of recall, he was the guy in the commercial.
Yes.
But don't you think that if he was really just like in a dream, he would have not gotten anxious and sweaty?
Well, that could have been
Wait,
that could have been all part of the plan.
I don't think so.
He
You
was
think?
he was an actor. He was playing in the commercials. So maybe he got hired to be part of that program.
Yeah, that's true.
The only thing that doesn't make sense to me is the fact that he dreamt about that girl before he went to Total Recall.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of weird that the same face showed up on the screen when he was picking. So he basically built her.
Yes, that he did.
So that's the one thing that I'm kind of like scratching my head, and I can't figure a way to explain it.
Total Recall, the care of your
That's
dreams.
deliberate.
Yes. Yeah. And I agree 100% with that one. So,
Well, it's interesting you say that because I'm just reading through the wiki, and this movie had a bit of development hell before it finally got made. It was originally it was optioned from a 23-page story from the then little-known pulp fiction writer, April 1966 edition of the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction, and the story was called "We Can Remember It For You Wholesale," and was Philip K. Dick. So, he gets around.
yeah. Oh,
But he wasn't well known then. Hadn't written his masterful novel series at the time. They renamed it to Total Recall, and they were working on the story. Dick read the script prior to his death in '82, and according to O'Bannon, enjoyed it. So it was given the thumbs up by the original writer. It was developed under the De Laurentiis Entertainment Group. Dino De Laurentiis, who had directed other Arnie movies like Conan the Barbarian, which was a Dino De Laurentiis effort. So he wanted it to be Raiders of the Lost Ark on Mars. He didn't want it to be as serious as Blade Runner, which is adapted from Philip K. Dick's novel Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. Yes, the guy got around.
Oh,
they wanted it to be more adventure-y than sort of serious stuff like that. At that point, they were looking at William Hurt as the main protagonist. I also considered Jeff Bridges, if you remember Jeff Bridges, back in the 80s.
Yep.
Was considered for Quaid. They wanted Cronenberg to be the director. Now, Cronenberg has made some seriously freaky shit. That's not an understatement.
I could imagine, that would have been a unique movie.
Yeah, it would have.
Definitely. It would have.
Considering that the movie that was produced, Total Recall, that we have watched to talk about it on this episode, was considered bloody by the bulk of the reviewers. Considered it quite a bloodthirsty movie. And yeah, there was people getting shot up all over the place. So yeah, it's understandable. They considered a whole bunch of people, even Christopher Reeve. They were considering to play Quaid back when it was being produced under the De Laurentiis banner. And then a bit later on, De Laurentiis wanted to keep the costs down because his movie Dune 1984, which we've covered, hadn't done so well financially, and they wanted to keep the cost. He wanted to keep the costs down, but there was dissension in the ranks. They wanted to spend a decent amount of money on this and make it a good movie. And they argued about the finale, about the breathable atmosphere on Mars. Gary Goldman was offered opportunity to refine the script, but turned it down for another project he was working on called Warrior. They wanted it to be more Spielbergian in tone. And then they tried to cast Patrick Swayze as Quaid. So Quaid was getting handed around.
There's so many different movies that would have been with so many different actors. I mean,
Exactly.
The movie that we have now is the movie we have now because of Arnold.
Definitely.
True.
So it got handed over to another production company, Carolco Pictures. Arnold Schwarzenegger became aware of the movie in the mid-'80s while he was filming Commander and Raw Deal in 85 and 86. He liked the script and agreed to pursue it alongside producer Joel Silver, while filming Predator in 87. But the project remained unrealized due to its prohibitive budget and because De Laurentiis did not think Schwarzenegger was right for the lead role. Following DEG's bankruptcy, Schwarzenegger convinced Andrew G. Vanna and Mario Casa, co-owners of the independent film studio Carolco Pictures, with whom he made Red Heat in 1988, purchased the rights for $3 million, including pre-production costs. Schwarzenegger wanted to star in the film, pending rewrites to his satisfaction, and his fame and international appeal justified the studio investing the necessary budget. So basically, it got the budget it did because Schwarzenegger was backing it. This shit happens.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then apparently it was the script was rewritten so that it was ambiguous whether or not it was a dream or not. It didn't. It was obvious in the early scripts what was going on, but they deliberately made it ambiguous for the final version, just to, ramp up the what the hell's going on here factor, which, isn't a bad move. I mean, a lot of people like a movie that doesn't explain everything.
Yes.
And,
Of course.
The fact that we're still discussing whether or not it was real or it was all in Quaid's head, justifies that decision.
It's a flattery way for the director to tell the audience, you guys are smart.
I think that is why books work, right? Because although everything is there, you have that element of interpretation and how you visualize it in your head. And I think that for movies it's kind of hard, right? Because you are showing
A vision.
you're showing a scene and you're controlling the audience emotion via music. So you have a lot of control of what you're showing. So whenever we have a movie that does this, that does what a book normally does, I think that's why it becomes so successful, because it leaves that up to you to come up with what's going on. What is the scene? What are we watching? What is the end of that? And we have covered quite different amount of movies in this show. They have done that, and I think that that's a recipe for a great movie, in my opinion.
I agree.
So Schwarzenegger had a hand in deciding how things went in this movie. He needed it rewritten to his satisfaction before he would star in it, because he had the star power to pull shit like that by this stage. But it was actually director Paul Verhoeven who directed RoboCop, another movie that we're very fond of here, and is ultra violent. So this is actually toned down compared to RoboCop. It says here, after nearly 16 years in development hell, 7 directors, 4 co-writers, and 40 script drafts, Total Recall went into production.
Wow.
Shit. And Goldman, who did the music, considers the music in this movie some of his best work. Jerry Goldsmith, not Goldman.
Awesome. You know what? I think we're overdue for the first question.
Overdue.
So kick it into gear.
If you have listened to the show long enough, you know that very first question that we ask typically is, how old were you when you watched this, and what was your very first impression? And this means, like, what was your impression when you first watched it? Not accounting for what has that impression become over the years. I could go first if you guys like, or anyone else want to go first?
I can go first if you guys like. I'm actually the newest one to this one.
Okay, so you're the newbie.
Let the newbie go first.
I actually was maybe like 6-7 years old when I watched this back in 96, 95. And this was one of those movies that got me from sci-fi love.
And yours
shaped me up to be.
Can you repeat that last sentence?
It's one of those movies that shaped me up to be a sci-fi fan, actually.
Yes. It's such a classic.
And I think that it also shaped up sci-fi filmmaking business. I believe so. I think that there's a lot of the Neuromancer novel also influencing this.
Yeah.
What do you say about that, Ray?
Yeah, I'd have to say that there would be definite strains of Neuromancer in this movie. I mean, this isn't pure cyberpunk, but it is, well, to turn a phrase, mindfuck. And
you don't say.
I'm not mincing words. And it does really draw upon that what is real, what can you trust your senses?
Yep.
Is what's going on actually real? Why the hell am I having these dreams, and why are they prophetic? I'm sure a lot of people have dreamt things and then seen stuff happen that seem to match it, and have these questions in their heads. But yeah, I mean, it was rewritten specifically to make it ambiguous about whether or not he was dreaming or it was actually happening. So,
Yep.
I mean, it's up to the viewer to decide. What do you think was happening? So, I think it's a really exciting way to write a story.
But how old were you when you watched this movie for the first time?
Oh, I was 21, so not a youngin. Saw it at the cinema. Was very excited for it.
I can't remember if I saw it. It's been
That's how long it's been. He can't remember.
well. I think I watched it on the theaters, right? But the thing is that I watched this film so many times.
It's all blurring together.
All blurs together. I think I was around 20 when I watched this. The impression that I had the first time that I watched it, it was very um it was kind of shocking, right? Um Granted, not now it's aged, right? But um the imagery that I saw in this film, from the way that he takes the tracker out of his nose,
Oh my god, bro, that was
to
peak.
the
Body horror.
it's exactly. It was uncanny valley in a point because I saw it was very shocking, yet it seemed somewhat unreal. Although back then, this is not something that you normally saw on films, unless you watch a lot of horror films, which I the only reason why I would watch it is to maybe impress a girl at the time. I was a teenager, but I wasn't really seeking out horror films. So I'm sure there's someone back then that was the glory days of horror films, and that's what you would see. But I was more into like the sci-fi area. It was very shocking because it was, impressionable, yet there's something there. Like I call it uncanny valley, where there's something not quite right, but it was in my mind back then. It was like very well done, to the point, we move forward to when he was in Mars immigration, and he's taking the fat lady's mask off. We fast forward to the end when they're actually out in the air and the Mars atmosphere, and how their eyes are popping out and they're ballooning. Which later in life I realized that that's not technically what happens, but still back then it was the whole film was very impressionable to me, and it was amazing. We have Arnold, which it was a big star at the time,
Oh yeah.
and we have action, and we have so I had action and sci-fi in one film, and I was all for it. And I think that's one of the reasons why I have rewatched this film so many times. And
I,
that's my
My first impressions was more like I was stunned, and of course back in those days I didn't analyze the movie quite as much as I do these days. I mean, being part of this podcast means that I think a lot harder about the components of a movie and analyze them a lot deeper, and I come to a deeper understanding, which we'll get to in a minute. But my first impression, I was quite at an impressionable age, and this movie hit me pretty hard. It was kind of like a well formulated meal, like a meal that had all of the great notes, the umami, the seasonings. It was all there. It had a bit of blood and guts, enough to get your attention. It had science fiction elements that I thought were really cool, Johnny Cab and trackers and all sorts of things like that. It had to do with Mars, which has been on everybody's mind for forever. And you had an action star in a sci-fi movie that was really sort of it sort of had a big scope, and then you add the layers of mindfuck to it, and it just gave you a shit ton to think about. And you know that a movie's really affected you when you're thinking about it for weeks afterwards, like trying to get it right in your head, work out what you watched. You may need to have to convince your parents to give you some more pocket money so you can go back to see it. Because you're just trying to work it out. And then, it came out on VHS, and I had a VHS of it, and then I had a Blu-ray. Then I had a DVD of it for a long time. I think I still have that covered somewhere. But it is one of those movies that, you hear the music, ding, 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 ding. As soon as you hear that, you go, Total Recall. You know exactly what movie it's from. And then all those visuals start popping back up again. I mean, it had the music, it had the acting, it had Sharon Stone in it. I mean, she was back then.
That was her days. That was definitely her days. Yeah.
And I got to say, I was pretty disappointed when she got shot, was out of the movie. I'm like, oh.
I usually get like that, like what you just described when I see three tits, but I don't see that very often. So this movie was very impressionable.
Uh-huh.
How old were you?
I got Total Recall. He goes, three tits.
How old again you were?
Maybe like 11.
Yeah.
More raging.
That was pure heaven.
Boobish.
It was great.
Extra boobish.
Oh God. Yeah.
It weren't enough.
So I mean, this movie had lots of good stuff. After a while, I started to get a bit leery of the special effects because they did look a bit cheeseball.
Yes.
I mean, they did their best. It was functional, but it wasn't as slick as you get these days with CGI.
Hey, and by the way, for ladies that are curious, no, 2 tits is enough for me, okay?
Oh my
God. If you got 3, that's fine too.
Okay, I'm going to move it on with another.
Do that.
I am going to link this movie to Star Trek.
Oh God, here we go.
Oh no, run soundtrack. I have to, right?
The only reason why I gotta do this is I did watch this with my wife, which she's really into Star Trek right now.
Over ventures when no other man's there to venture.
And Johnny Cab, there was a scene when he was talking to our man.
You mean Johnny Cash?
No, it's Johnny Cab, the electronic robot that controls the cab. I was actually playing the scene over and over where he was talking to our main protagonist. He was on the way to the hideout. This is prior to him removing the tracker from his skull. And I was telling my wife, "Hey, can you listen to his voice and tell me who he is?" And this comes after the fact, right? Because I didn't watch this IP from this, let's call it sub IP from Star Trek until later. So I did not, by the time I listened to this actor, I didn't know who he was until later in life when I rewatched it after watching this sub IP from Star Trek. So I played it possibly like 4 times. I think his voice is completely recognizable, and it's impressive to me because this is a 1990 movie. And I play it. It's like, you don't recognize it? No. So I said, okay. I just had to mention a quote from, and the sub IP that I'm talking about is Star Trek Voyager. And all I had to say was, please state the nature of your medical emergency. And her eyes lit up. And I played it again, and she recognized The actor is Robert Picardo, who plays the holographic doctor in Voyager. And then there's another scene, and it's kind of cool to this is kind of cool to me at least because this is not something that would have happened in the past until she decided to watch the entire site, Star Trek in order, where now she's kind of clicking, right? So there was a scene when our main character arrives at Mars immigration, and wearing the fat lady suit. And the main villain, Michael Ironside, just arrived at that port, and he's talking to Everett. I believe it was Captain Everett. Um, I I actually paused the screen and I told my wife, "Do you recognize who that is?" And it's kind of crazy because he has such a recognizable face, even though on Deep Space Nine, DS9, he's covered in latex, and he's a your favorite the only Cardassian I feel that you want to hate, Gul Dukat, and this is the actor Mark Alimo, who plays Gul Dukat, a Cardassian Gul in Deep Space Nine. And it's amazing how she recognizes him immediately, and the voice is there. Like you can close your eyes and you can hear Gul Dukat talk. So those are the two ways that I linked this movie to Star Trek.
Do you want me to tell you who Melina remind me of?
Hmm.
The doctor lady that is on the Orville. For some reason, her face brought me that lady actress. I don't know why. Don't ask me why.
Interesting. And of course, do you guys see it now? Right? Cybertrucks all over this film.
I see Cyber Honda Civic CRX.
Every single car in this film kind of looked like a Cybertruck.
They're chunky, aren't they?
And the reason why I'm bringing it up is like my wife actually brought it up. She's like, you saw the Cybertruck, and I'm like, what? So I had to rewind the scene, pause it. Oh yeah, every single car was a Cybertruck.
Well, apparently in that universe they did well. Apparently, solved the problem.
And not dubious of all of you right now because you guys don't have 5 children.
I got 4 mouths to feed. What happened to the 5th one? Well, damn it, you got me.
I thought that he was gonna say. I thought that he was gonna say there that he just killed one of them because of the mutant guy that was like a baby. That's what I thought he was gonna say.
Hey, did you look at his hand?
I think that he was one of the coffee guys in Men in Blacks.
No, he was a Tark from John Tark.
Oh man, his hand looked more like the coffee aliens that drink coffee in Men in Black.
Yeah, I remember that.
That's how his hands looks like. The Tarks look very humanoid if you think about it.
But they have 3 kind of like, was it 3 fingers? Yeah.
2 fingers. He got 2 fingers and like 2 teeny tiny fingers. But the Tars, I think they have 3 fingers. I think so. My memory doesn't fail me. I'm gonna end up watching John Carter again today. You can bet on it.
Oh, it's such a great film. Okay. So, what is? I guess I should ask that question. I mean, I'm linking this film to all kinds of IPs here. Is there what actually you could say after rewatching this film? And I'm not sure how many times you guys have rewatched this film. That you could say today that, and again, I know this film has aged, right? The sci-fi, I like we talked in the pre-show and said this is the good kind of cheese, What kind of
Gouda.
Gouda? It's Gouda. Um, from this film, can you point out what it could be scene, it could be what you like the most after the latest rewatch, which in our case happens to be today. Well, at least for me.
Three tits. I think it brings home that all new feeling of seeing what we envisioned Mars was gonna be. And the funny thing is that you look across how we have get more sleek and modern with our designs. Mars kind of holds up to the vision of what's gonna still be. It's domes protecting us from the harsh environment up there. So I think that even though this movie was made in 1990s, if you think about it, every version of Mars that we've done moving forward hasn't really changed much compared to that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I think the hikes are gonna be still taken on spaceships. I hope one thing that actually struck hard on me is that every freaking glass is really thin glass, not ballistic glass. When you have windstorms that got hundreds of miles per hour. So besides that, I mean, I think that they should be able to shoot inside really, not break the glass.
Well, the sandstorms, because of the thin atmosphere, they're not the kind of sandstorms that you see here on Earth. So, like for example, the film, and this is one of the things that I call out on the film The Martian. That scene at the beginning was not realistic because the sandstorms, uh, they're I don't know. Correct me if you feel I'm wrong, Ray, but I don't feel that was realistic at all because of the lack of you know um, atmosphere on Mars. How it's like not enough pressure. I don't think it can reach that speed.
It's hard to say really, because you've also got less gravity, so it's easy for the dust to get up into off the
Mhm.
ground because there's not so much gravity pulling it down. It's only very small stuff. Um, I think that the speed is not the issue. It's the kinetic pressure
The
that
violent.
it wouldn't have. It'd just sort of go like if this was a pane of glass, it would just sort of go,
Yeah.
because it'd be all light and fluffy and there'd be nothing solid behind it. You wouldn't get a wall of wind like you do on Earth because there's just not the particles in the atmosphere to push around. So everything would be all soft and just
Yeah.
would come really fast and just go, because there's not that pressure of the air with it.
Yeah. It's not, and I guess what I meant to say was, it's not going to be violent by any mean.
No, it's not gonna be like the way we get blown around down here on Earth, certainly.
I'm
'Cause
hoping
we-
that
we
people
have-
don't die like they die in the movie, though.
Well, what you got to remember is that gravity affects everything. So it affects the gas in the atmosphere. So there is more atmosphere on the Earth's surface than there is up further because it coalesces at the ground level because the gravity pulls it down. So there's more atoms per square whatever square washing machine down at the surface than there is up higher. Because it's been pulled down to the ground by gravity and it's stacking on top of itself. So there's actually a weight of gas above the gas that you're breathing right now. And that creates a pressure. And when you push that around, it creates a pressure that moves. Now, if you don't have as many particles, many molecules of gas, then there isn't the same amount of pressure. So it's not pushing in on you all the time. And when it's blown around, it doesn't have nearly as much physical kinetic energy. So I think you're right, Robert, that violent windstorm that they showed, there's no wind. So the stuff would be moving around, but it'd sort of be like flopping around and not doing much because it doesn't have that pressure behind it.
Yeah. Yeah.
True.
Another.
But the semi-accurate thing, presuming that you believe in ancient alien devices that have been created to produce an atmosphere, when the gas came pumping out of the pyramid mine and came roiling across the ground, it would have a lot of pressure.
Oh yes.
and that glass that was there giving them a view of the boring red hill, it would be designed to hold the gas in the one atmosphere that everybody's breathing on the inside, but it wouldn't be strong against the outside because there wouldn't be any pressure on the outside. So when that high pressure hit it from the outside, it's no surprise the thing went boosh, because it wasn't engineered to be able to deal with that.
Yeah.
True.
Another thing that I want to talk about this film about is the scene that was alluded by our very own Captain Chaos, apparently his favorite scene, where they're outside in the without any suit.
Give it to me.
It was that, and again, this is after the fact, right? When I watched this for the first time, it was very impressive to me. Now I know that this scene is not very realistic. And let me clarify this. You will die. Maybe you will not know after 15 seconds, right? But you will definitely die. But I don't think you will die the way that they were portrayed in this film. 15 seconds, the reason why I'm saying 15 seconds is you would probably lose consciousness for lack of
Better word.
oxygen. You can't breathe. So, and then after that, it is very similar to space. Maybe would happen slower than space because there is an atmosphere. It's just not the atmosphere conducive to life. But all of the liquid in your body will boil out, and that's the reason why we don't have liquid water on Mars, because it vapors out and goes out into space. So the same thing would happen to the liquid inside your body. I don't think you balloon out like it shows. Most likely you will freeze at the same time as boiling all your liquids at the same time of asphyxiating for lack of oxygen. So after 15 seconds, you're not going to know what happens because you're pretty much dead after that.
Do you think it will be as painful as they picture it, or more of a peaceful drift into slumber?
I don't think it would be peaceful at all. It would be kind of like drowning. It's
So we're like,
it wouldn't be. It would definitely would not be like that. You will boil and freeze at the same time. What do you think, Ray?
Well, it's one of those things that you don't want to test out on anybody.
Yeah, definitely.
No,
But
don't do
yeah,
that.
I mean, even with a solid atmosphere on Mars, it's not going to be nearly the pressure that we feel on Earth because there's not as much gravity. So there's not as much gas being pulled down towards the surface.
Mhm.
So you couldn't get one atmosphere on Earth on Mars. You couldn't do it. It'd still be a thin atmosphere even if it had one.
Yeah.
So you probably still need a breather mask with an oxygen supply to run around on Mars. You wouldn't be able to do it maskless.
Could you think
It
it
wouldn't
will
just-
be something like in Avatar: The Pandora's World?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I think that Mars still the temperatures are way too cold not to freeze you.
Minus 64 average, I believe.
Yeah, just some frostbite. Should be fine.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you could put an atmosphere on Mars, it would probably bring up the temperature just by the effect of insulation. So you might get up to minus 20. Doesn't sound much warmer, but
Not bad.
yeah. I mean,
actually
daytime.
One of those curious research, like you go to Google to search something and you just find yourself looking for useless information. That the coldest place in Earth is in Siberia, called Yakutsk, and it's a civilized place, has people on it. And the warmest you can get is like minus 40, and it has gone up to like minus 70 something.
Yeah, no,
which is
I don't
comparable
want
to Mars, without the hard winds at 100 something miles per hour.
go and live in a minus 20 cold room, and you'd still be better off.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I just had to bring that up because I'm looking at that after the fact and I'm like, I mean, it still will be a horrible death, but it would not be that.
Not so horrible.
They'll find a meatsicle on the floor with no liquids inside.
So you'd be a frozen
Dehydrated.
husk.
You become a big popsicle.
Yeah, it is
Pretty much.
dehydrated meat popsicle.
Dehydrated big popsicle.
To quote another movie. Oh, dear.
Oh wow! But you know, I do agree with you, Ray, on the atmosphere. Mars, I believe, isn't it half the size of Earth?
One third.
Whoa, even worse.
Yeah.
So yeah, you would have to have a real big atmosphere to be able to compensate for the size of the planet. And
The moon is 1/10 gravity, and Mars is 1/3 ish.
awesome. Okay, so I guess we can move on. So that was your answer, Chaos. So Ray, what do you think would be your? And I'm going to repeat the question because you know we do go off rails, so it's what we do. And the question originally was after the mini rewatch. What do you call? It could be a scene, it could be a concept. What actually you would say that you like or impresses you today about this film after the many rewatches? Something you find really cool.
Cool.
Well, if we're just looking for something that's really cool, I think those nails that the secretary was playing with, they were pretty cool. Something I always remember about this movie is the nails. The nails.
That is really cool, and it's something that it makes sense that could be created. And let me explain, right? It's not like I researched it, but they are passive. Um, and I've researched these because they call my attention. I'm considering maybe in the future put them in my house. But there's this passive um, glass. And let me just call it that to kind of explain my point. Where there's filament inside the glass that changes every time you apply electricity. But once you cut the electricity off, they stay in whatever position, kind of like the technology behind electronic ink or e-ink. So if you're familiar with and you know Kindle, Scribe, um, any of those electronic readers, that's the technology that I'm kind of talking about here, where it you apply electricity and remove electricity, and whatever it was programmed to do stays there until you apply electricity again. So what this thing does, it changes to block light. So it becomes kind of like a privacy glass when you press the button. If you press it again, it becomes clear again and you could see outside. Um, I always thought about that technology and how that could be applied to maybe paint, where there would be color filaments that would change according to if you apply electricity or not. So I always wonder if something could be created in that avenue where you know that the pen that you see in the film is just applying electricity, um,
Yeah.
and it would just cycle through the colors every time you just touch it, and that color stays there because it's just e-ink or color e-ink, I should say. But I don't know. It's just something that you know. I
And if you could make it coloured or see-through, it'd be convenient for workplaces or schools where they don't allow nail polish. You just go normal color, colored when you walk out. That'd be pretty cool.
Awesome. So if someone heard my idea, all I asked is you mentioned Science Fiction Remnant as the original source. So,
And you could also become a Patreon if you wanted.
Nice. Awesome. Awesome.
I mean, yeah, I mean, there's lots of other things I could have chosen, like the memory holidays and all sorts of stuff
Memory
that you can do
holidays.
with people's brains, but it's a bit dodgy. Or the finale, I mean, that was pretty epic. The idea of producing an atmosphere around a planet with an alien technology is pretty cool. But yeah, I just thought I'd pick something that really stuck in my head for some reason.
Awesome. So do you think in your this is kind of like a hard question, right? What do you think, or how many years do you think we are ahead of maybe the beginning of what we see in this film? Not necessarily what we see in this film, but let's say just the beginning where we have a settlement of maybe scientists or miners, and they're there to start building or do the initial building blocks of having
Conspiracy. We might
built.
be there already.
I'm sorry.
Conspiracy Geo here. Don't you think that we might be there already and we just don't know it? A secret.
There's Nazis on the dark side of the moon.
Can
Exactly.
you imagine
Yeah,
how
they're
sad it is that we don't know that there's women with 3 tits in Mars?
He's not gonna let it go.
God knows how many other heavenly mutations there are that I don't know of.
Which is another topic, because that one thing that you can't really manage in Mars is the radiation.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's why we see in this film the people that came from the how can we call them, slums on Mars?
Mutants. Mutant. That's what
They're,
they call it.
they're mostly no, the slums, because those
Oh, yeah.
places they didn't have the protection from radiation. So those places, it would be where you would go and find mutants, um, because of that radiation. Um, would that be something that would be very likely, Ray, in your opinion? Or do you think these people would just die? I mean, for some reason, I feel they would just die from radiation. But the likelihood, I mean, I know life would find a way,
Mhm.
but I kind of find it hard to believe. I mean, such a harsh, I mean, yeah, you take away the dangers of the pressure, the atmospheric pressure, and the air with, doing the domes. But if you are not protected from radiation, uh, I don't know. I find it hard to visualize in my head that you would have a civilization where a lot of people would mutate to kind of support that instead of just dying out from the radiation poisoning.
Yeah. A lot of I'm sure that they're the people who were least contaminated by the radiation. Anybody got a full dose probably died within days. But yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, it's more like a throwaway justification for having mutants to make things interesting. But I mean, it may well be that the cheap domes didn't cut out all the radiation, or there was parts of the domes where the radiation was stronger, and that's where the people who didn't have much agency were housed, because they just didn't give a crap about them. So
That makes a lot more sense.
yeah.
So in going back to the question and taking away conspiracy theories and stuff like that.
You mean you're sending Geo out of the show, taking away the conspiracy theories?
How far do you think we are from that? You know, not this. The film, we're very far away from what happens in the film. But the beginning of that, when we have people that are sent, and I know we're probably going to send robots to start building
We
places.
have done that already.
But I
How-
mean, sending people that will start building that whole colony on Mars. That just the beginning of it.
Would it be safe to say, you tell me what you think, Ray, that if we ever need to send humans, it's more for supervision than really getting anything done?
There will be certain things that robots won't be very good at doing that humans will be better at doing. So they'll need some humans. But of course, there's the whole issue of if you put a human being in an environment that has less gravity than we're used to, bad things start happening to your biology. You lose bone density, your muscles start to reduce and not work correctly. Your organs start to mess up. I mean, we are creatures of our habitat, and we're taken out of our habitat. It's basically like a fish out of water. You end up not doing so well.
Yeah.
True.
Gravity is one of the things that we need for us to function correctly. And when you don't have it, you don't function correctly. That's just the way it is. So that's probably going to be like the two big things they've got to deal with. Well, three actually. Three big things they've got to deal with on Mars is the radiation, because we don't have like effective radiation shielding at the moment. They've got to work on that technology. And of course, usually the way to deal with radiation is put lead between you and it, which is heavy. And moving heavy things out into orbit it's very bloody expensive. So they want to find a way that they can do it with lightweight materials rather than super heavyweight materials that are dense enough to block most of the radiation out.
You think
Sorry, could you repeat that?
You think the moving underground would be?
It would help.
It would. Okay.
It would help. I mean, you put enough Earth between you and radiation, and it doesn't get to you. That's why bunkers are built underground.
Yeah.
But yeah, certainly underground cities would be the way to go on Mars to start with, I think. But then, of course, you've got to dig them out. So, that takes time and money and effort. So you've got radiation, you've got atmosphere, having enough breathable oxygen up there for large numbers of people to go around doing anything will be a real challenge. Finding a way to regenerate your oxygen supply or reduce the CO2, because CO2 poisoning is a thing. If you build up too much CO2 in your atmosphere, you're in all sorts of trouble. That's why you've got CO2 scrubbers in all of these sci-fi movies, and they use it as a timer. Like, we've only got so many hours before the CO2 builds up to a point where it's toxic and we'll all die. So we've got to try and get whatever it is done, find the MacGuffin, fix the ship, do whatever we've got to do before we can get out of here to survive. So, I mean, it's one of those things that is key, having the right stuff to breathe. And, we don't look after our environment particularly well here on Earth. We're a bit stupid like that. But it becomes a lot more obvious when you've got a very, very limited supply. It's stupidly important. Being able to breathe is one of the things that keeps us alive. You can't breathe, you die. So, having even a small number of people up on Mars is going to be a challenge to give them enough stuff to breathe for long enough. That's why you don't hang around on the moon a lot, because there's nothing to breathe up there. And the third issue is going to be the gravity. As I've mentioned, your body does not work properly when it's not under the right amount of gravity. And of course, if you're not under the right amount of gravity, unless you're wearing a suit, which creates an artificial container that you can pump up to get the right air pressure for the atmosphere, if you don't have a suit on, you've got to highly pressurize your living spaces to get a pressure that your body will accept. because you've got to have a certain amount of gas pressure for your lungs to work. You've got to have a certain amount of gas pressure pushing on you from all directions, so that your body functions properly. If you don't have the gas pressure pushing on you and the gravity pushing on you, you're going to get edemas and collections of fluids in places they're not supposed to be, all over your body on long-term exposure to reduced atmosphere and reduced gravity. It's going to be a pain in the ass.
Oh,
And
yeah.
no matter how much certain rich but somewhat eccentric spaceflight pioneers of our generation want to run off to Mars and hang out there, it's not going to be an easy thing. It really isn't.
You brought a really good point, and it seems like unless we find a way to, control or create or um, mainly control gravitons, which again is a hypothetical particle, anyways. Um, we are not going to be able to go there and have a very good time. Even our very first, I mean, the way that I visualized, maybe by 2050, 20, I don't know, for some reason I want to say 2050, we would have some humans, maybe 2060. Um, but it's not going to be a walk in the park because, like you said, Ray, our bodies are designed for the 1G. So even if we build
And one G, one atmosphere.
1G, one atmosphere, yeah. So number one, gravity will be an important factor as to what we can carry outside our planet. But the reason why it is so costly is because we're fighting gravity with force, brute force, to take objects based on their weight. So the heavier they are, the more fuel that we gotta use to burn and do a basically what I like to call it is a brute force attack into the gravity to be able to just being able to get an orbit, right? Just out of the planet. So gravitons to be able to control that, uh, possibly being able to use a lot less fuel. And not only that, but once we get there, even if we are able to create a habitat under the ground to protect us from the radiation, gravity still will be a factor that our bodies are not going to be able to handle well. And that's why I think, and again, I'm going to bring Star Trek into this thing again, how they have the gravity plating. Um, that is a something that would save us to be able to be a space bearing civilization where we could take the gravity with us. And that way our bodies don't suffer as much. I mean, Chaos, you'll find it very interesting the experiment that NASA did with the twins.
Yeah.
And that's actually the very first hand experience that NASA has discovered as to the effects of gravity on the body.
Yep. Definitely. I mean, I think that I don't know, like the case that I was talking about, the soldier from the USSR that find himself stranded. He also was for a long time, but they didn't shed too much light because information was not as readily available as it is today. But I think that the very first case that we could get good data on it was that the beautiful thing about Mark and Scott Kelly is that they're twins. So you got genetically two identical subjects that are being compared under different atmospheric uh, conditions for a long span of time.
Mhm.
And honestly, I'm not sure if we really have yet the key to fight radiation in outer space, because I don't think that even inside the spaceship we can protect ourselves from it.
Yeah. That is, yeah, that is correct. I mean, I think the placement of the where the spacecrafts are located at do help.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the the electromagnetism from Earth, just goes out and expands out into space. So there's some sort of protection,
Yep. It's like a shield.
but I mean, we're talking about going outside that bubble, outside the habitable area, and going into the farther out into our solar system, into the next planet over. And that radiation, yes, is a big problem.
Yep. Think about trying to go colonize another planet or such, right?
Hmm. Exactly. So yeah, although I do want to see this, I think we have a lot more to work on, and I strongly believe our ability to understand or control gravity, it's one of the most important things out
Mm-hmm.
to be able to, go over.
Once we discover that, I think that we're gonna be kind of unstoppables in the outer interstellar space. If you think about it, right?
Yeah, and there is another movie that talks about the effects of the body, like assuming that we have a habitable area on Mars that protects us from the harmful effects of radiation, um, assuming that we have a one gravity. I mean, not one gravity, one atmosphere, not necessarily the gravity. Um, Kind of like what The Expanse talks about,
Yeah.
Yeah,
like when the Belters come back home. This,
I was thinking about that.
yeah, this movie that I'm talking about, it's about a kid that was born in space on the way to Mars,
Oh, that one. I haven't seen that.
and how he kind of fell in love with a Earth girl, and he comes back to Earth. And all
And
the
it's
Martian.
bad news for him.
Oh, yes, and you could see it on the and this is like and we had to cover this in the film, I mean, on this show eventually, but this is one of the closest movies, aside from The Expanse, and the reason why I said aside from The Expanse is because this movie talks solely about this, and the detrimental effects that he sees on his stay on Earth, and why he was rushed out of the planet, otherwise he would die. And again, I'm not going to mention the name. It is a Netflix film, uh, but eventually we'll see if we can cover it and bring it up to you. But I just talking about this, and that movie came to mind because of that. Because
Yeah.
it's interesting how they talk biology. Granted, it's a movie, it's a sci-fi movie. It's still going to be just suspended disbelief, but it's interesting because of that. Because it talks about what happens to the human body after it's used to Mars coming back to Earth.
See, I think the human body can probably manage like plus minus 25%, but any more than that, and you're going to have long term issues. So the obvious thing is, oh, yeah, well, human beings can be modified. We'll just modify them for the environment. That's great and all, but what if you have to evacuate Mars? Where are you going to go? You can't go back to Earth.
Nope.
Yes.
You're stranding. You're stranding at a species, literally,
Yeah, pretty much.
on an environment that they were not naturally raised to survive or live on.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
So if their support systems go down, they're screwed.
It kind of reminds me, just like Robert brought back the Expanse when they brought the Belter into the Earth
And he was
to
being
torture
crushed
them.
by the gravity.
Exactly, like they had it on a water pool, so he wouldn't die with oxygen. That's a horrible death. That's a terrible death, and there's nothing you can do about it.
I think if you're in an atmosphere which is much heavier than you're used to, then it will cause issues with your lungs.
Yes.
Yeah.
It would be breaking barrier between your lungs and your blood, and I'd reckon your lungs would probably fill up with fluid.
And your heart too.
Yeah, if you're
Pumping
putting pressure
blood.
on your heart. Yeah. Yeah, so more gravity's just as unhelpful as less. I mean, I think human beings could deal with plus minus 25%, but any more than that, we're just not going to function long term.
Yeah.
With the
I
proper.
mean, you can go up to the moon for a few days and come back, and your body won't shut down on you. But you stay up there for months, and you start to really suffer.
That's what I'm so curious about the Artemis project. How it's gonna work out, really.
Well, they're taking a harsher environment, which is the moon first, which I think is a smart move because if you can figure that out, the other one should be a little easier.
Yeah.
But it's still within, it's the moon. It's still within our area, and I have a feeling that although it's not as much as it is on Earth, there's still some more protection against radiation than it is on Mars, that is farther out from Earth. So I don't know. Should I name the Netflix movie?
Yeah,
I think
sure.
so. Why not? It could be a good reference for our listeners.
Okay, so the name of the movie is The Space Between Us. It's a Netflix movie. I've seen it a couple of times already. And that's the reason why I like that movie. Is we see it on The Expanse, but in this movie, it's all about that. And I like to see like the hardships that he's going. He's going to meet a girl he fell in love with. He came to Earth, and on his way, all the stuff that happens to him, and towards the end, when he got rushed out of Earth because he was about to die.
Hmm.
Okay.
And that's a good point, actually, to remember, everybody. If you have watched it, you go to our Discord channel so you can actually join the conversation about that and more other IPs. I don't know if we have a hashtag for it, but we basically have a channel for everything over there. So if
Yeah, let us know if it's not there, we'll make it a thing. Okay, I think we're at the point of the show where we ask
the question,
the last question.
okay, I'm gonna ask it. Robert, will you marry me?
He's already married.
To your
That's okay. He likes errands, so
Don't you have to go to Utah for polygamy?
no, that's just being Mormon.
yeah, well, that's not. Yeah. Well, anyways, the question is, what is your last impression of this film? And this is a collection of all the times you watched it from the beginning to end, comparisons, including the rewatch.
Me.
Okay.
Yeah. So just to sort of recap, when I first saw this movie, I was really impressed, and it left quite the impression on me. And of course, being a young buck, I didn't have the scientific knowledge I have now to understand where the science sort of fell down in this movie. Certainly, you need to leave a couple of ideas at the door and not think too hard to really accept this movie for what it is. But certainly, I believe it's a great sort of sci-fi action adventure. It has a lot of well-written material. It's very sort of Matrix-y and Inception-y. And if you like those sort of movies that mess with your mind, you'll be right at home here. It's got a young Arnold Schwarzenegger looking super buff. It's got
give it to me.
yeah, that one.
Arnold Schwarzenegger is struggling voices in there. It's so funny.
It's got Sharon Stone at the height of her uwu, so not hard to watch at all. And it's got like Michael Ironside, Ronnie Cox. I mean, it's lots of great names in this movie that turn in, serious performances. They're not messing around.
Yeah.
and yet it's got a lighter side. There's a fair bit of humor in the script. The quote that we didn't use that we were considering, Laurie, who's played by Sharon Stone, goes, "Doug, honey, you wouldn't hurt me, would you? Sweetheart, be reasonable. After all, we're married." She goes to pull the gun. He shoots her in the forehead. "Consider this a divorce." It's like Arnie one-liners. And then Melina comes up. "Was that your wife?" And he nods, and she goes, "What a bitch."
So casual. So,
Yeah, it's great lines in this movie. I really enjoyed it, and that was one of the things I appreciated watching it again, was how well written it was, and how it really worked. There's a lot of foreshadowing. There's stuff popping up in various places to make you ask the question: is it real? Is he going nuts? Did he get his recall thing or not? Is he really a secret agent? What the hell's going on here? And I do love that sort of a movie that asks all those sorts of questions and keeps you guessing even after the end of the movie. So I really appreciate that. It's got some great little sci-fi concepts that we'll be going over very shortly. Yeah, I think for a 1990s effort, which was, it was made in the 80s. So, there's the big shoulders and the big perms and the big lockets and things, which... very 80s. It still has some good sci-fi flair. And I really do think it's well worth a watch. There was a period in my life where I thought the SFX were a bit cheesy and I went off it a bit, but looking at it again now with sort of rose-tinted glasses, I really do enjoy the movie. It was great to watch it again after a few years of not having seen it. And I really reckon it's worth a watch for all good classic sci-fi lovers out there.
Awesome. I guess I'll go next. I you put it very well in everything you said. So I feel like I'm just going to add to what you said. Most of the stuff I agree 100% with this film. If you have not watched it, which I find it, I mean, there's still people out there who has not watched it, but if you have not watched it, I strongly recommend it. This is an iconic film for a reason. There's so many things going well for it. If you like action, it's a must watch. I mean, this is Arnold on his days, but this film has everything. It's and what I like the most about the film is, again, I've mentioned this in previous shows. When a film does this, it just, I love it. The fact that it makes you question, right? Um, Scientific topics. One of the things that we talked about this is, what really happens to the human body outside a spacesuit on the atmosphere of Mars. Um, what happens to the body when it hits a radiation, um, and those sorts of questions that we actually talked about in this show. um, Although it is cheese, and like we talked about, when I watched it for the first time, and if you're one of the lucky ones that watched it like I did on the film, on the theaters, it was an impressive film at the time, and then only after the rewatch, after time, it became kind of like cheese. But it's not like some. Um, it's very well. We joke around here. It's a good kind of cheese. It's Gouda. Um, it was. It's very nostalgic, at least for me, that I've watched it early on and throughout the years. But taking that away from the film, I think the film has a lot to offer. If you are a sci-fi fan, if you're a action fan, and those are, again, I talked about this too, where the film covers different kinds of genres. It makes it a better, in my opinion, a better film because it kind of caters to a wider audience. So yeah, this, if you have not watched it, you've probably seen it. because it's iconic. It's in pop culture for years. So I'm sure that if you have not seen it yet, you're seeing references to this film in one way or another. I recommend you watch it. And if you have not watched it before, just join us on Discord and let's discuss the film. I'm very, very curious to hear your thoughts if you never watched it before. And obviously, if you watch this film, um, throughout life, if you watched it only once or you rewatched it, I'm also we are also very curious to hear your thoughts and if you agree on or disagree on any of the topics that we have discussed in this show. So, yeah, it's a must watch. It is a rubber approved film.
Give me Well, now it's my turn, I guess. And like I was saying earlier, this is one of the movies that got me to be so geeky about sci-fi things. Um, I love how the movie stands to the passage of time. It's one of those beautiful things about some visions that don't really change with with time. It's Mars colonization. It looked to me look a bit cyberpunkish because of all the mutants, the modifications. Because you see like the guy with the mechanical hand, things like that. And you got people with body modifications of all sorts, really. And that brought it home to me because for some reason I always been drawn to cyberpunk. I probably one of these days I'm gonna get some bionic parts. If you don't know what I did, you gotta watch our video on YouTube. I think also that this movie, I was talking to Robert earlier today before the show, and I came to the realization that Arnold Schwarzenegger actually has a lot of great movies under his belt.
Oh,
Uh,
sure.
and people make fun of his accent and everything, but I think that he's an iconic actor,
Oh, yes.
and he has so many great movies. Even though they are not the same kind of actor, I would compare it with Tom Cruise. His greatness.
Get to the chopper.
Get out, I'm Arnold. But and I think that this movie is one of those things that changed sci-fi in the future today to what it is, and paved the way for the vision of Mars-related things. We mentioned earlier the Expanse, and I think that even in the Expanse, the way that they portray Mars, it's not far from this if you think about it. I think that in a whole, I think universally everybody in Mars are cave people. And I would definitely recommend this movie for sure. It's a fun movie, and it brings it home because it has that eureka or what the hell moment where you don't know what the end of the movie is if really happened or not. So it's like that little twist at the end that leaves the viewer. With, we'll let you think whatever you like. It's a great way to start fights.
Hey, Robert.
Mm.
Robert, you didn't dig deep enough for your Star Trek connection.
Oh, come on.
I found another one.
Don't encourage it. Right. Remember the sign.
Bring it home.
No, this is a good one. Gio, your triple-breasted whore from Venusville. Licia Naff is the woman, the actress's name, and she plays the triple-breasted whore Mary. She actually played Ensign Sonia Gomez in Next Gen, who appeared twice, and she came back to do the voice of Captain Sonia Gomez in Lower Decks.
You know, that voice sounded very familiar, and I didn't dig deep. And I'm sorry,
Yep.
but I was watching. It's like I recognize that voice. Where's it from? And if you're not watching our YouTube, you're missing out on our catalog.
I can't quite tell if he's doing 3 breasts or an alien chest buster.
I'm doing space double T's.
I don't know. From my vantage point here, it might have been the alien coming out of your chest, but you know,
it's all the way for me too.
The third teeth was an alien incubated in my chest.
That explains a lot.
Don't incentivate me. You will regret it. I promise.
So when you've come a whole full circle, Robert, and you and your wife are back to watching Lower Decks, when Captain Sonia Gomez comes on and goes, "You recognize that voice?" And then you pull out your Blu-ray or whatever of Total Recall, pop it in, go, There you go. She's got 3 breasts hiding under that Star Trek onesie.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it was very impressionable for her. Her face was priceless when she saw that. Awesome. Okay, so
We go now to the next segment, right?
next segment. Here we go.
Sci-Fi.
Yeah, well, lots of little interesting futuristic gadgets in this one, and also, I mean, Gio could probably spend another hour talking about the socio-political situation on Mars and how it fits into several conspiracy theories he has. But what all?
Hey, I've thought of selling ice, but selling air, that's brilliant.
Yeah. Well, they sold air on what was it called? Spaceballs. So, Perrier.
There's another one we got to cover.
Yeah, definitely. Mega Made. Fucking awesome.
Ludicrous speed.
So, obviously, in 1990 or slightly earlier, when the movie was made, video telephony was in its infancy, or non-functional, didn't happen at all. And they showed phone units with clear video screens in them. And of course, we do most of our video telephony on pads or smartphones these days, but they were predicting that sort of thing, and FaceTime and Google Meet and all that sort of stuff is the go these days. So, and I mean, I'm here talking to a couple of chaps from the other side of the world once a week or more often, recording stuff, and you couldn't imagine doing this back in 1990. I couldn't have even hazarded a guess that this was in my future. So, I mean, yeah, they did pretty good job, predicting video telephony. So I was quite impressed with that. And the other thing that always caught my eye in this movie, and it's only a little small thing, it's a little throwaway thing, but it just keeps grabbing at me, is the color changing nails on
Yes.
The
Receptionist?
Thank you. The receptionist is using when he comes into recall. She's just tapping it on her fingers, and her fingers are changing color. Now, you were talking about that glass that you just applied electric charge to, and it adjusts its tilt, and you get either blocked or clear.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, they've actually made an effort. Back in the early teens, they made an effort to create nails. And I'll just, for those who are watching the video, it'll make a lot more sense because I'm actually going to share this. But here's an article from the Daily Mail in the UK, which was in 2014, where they're talking about an emerging technology, which is fingernail, like artificial fingernails, like a lot of women wear, that were actually, you could change what they displayed, and I use that term strategically, with an app on your phone. So back in 2014, 10 years ago, this was an emerging technology that you could actually control the color and the pattern, not just the color, but the pattern on your nails from an app on your phone. Now, I've read through this, and they were called the Bloom Your Nails, and they were battery powered. The battery would only last a day, so you had to replace them every day, which probably got a bit on the expensive side, which is why they didn't take off. But yeah, you could basically change what your nails were doing on a minute-by-minute basis, which I'm sure some women would have loved the idea of. But if it cost a bit too much, that would have been a shame. Let's see if we can make that a bit bigger. Nope. Oh, easy to see. Now, there was supposedly a video that showed how this worked, which would be there, but when I click it, it won't work. So obviously that video doesn't exist on YouTube anymore. It was 10 years ago, so stuff does end up disappearing. But you can see here, and this is probably an early version of the app. So if these nails are taken off, and they are tiny little screens, as it were, and using Bluetooth, you could send images to them to display. So it wouldn't just be a color, but it would be a pattern as well. So you could basically send whatever image you come up with in Photoshop to your nails to do all sorts of funky things. And I know that there's a lot of people who are very keen on nail art. So this would be a way to do digital nail art, which would have been cool. But I get the sneaky suspicion that they were too expensive.
Man,
because
we missed out on having pictures of Captain Chaos on our nails.
That's right.
What?
But you can see them here, and these are little screens that are false nails, and you put them on your fingers, and then you wear them for a day. And it says here wireless charging, so maybe you can take them off and charge them overnight, but the batteries would last for a day. But yeah, I suspect that they were a bit on the pricey side, and they just didn't take off because young women, who would probably be the target audience, wouldn't have the money for high-tech nails. You would expect it's much cheaper to just use normal nail polish. So, of course, they do have that nail polish that is thermoreactive. So if you chill it, it turns blue, and if you heat it up, it turns red or some other color. And if you heat part of it and cool part of it, you can get mixtures of colors and things like that. So there is that way to do it, but of course that's a much lower tech version.
What if they use what they use for mood rings?
Yeah, basically the same idea.
Basically, yeah.
Yep. So that's basically the same idea.
I was so disappointed when I realized that a mood ring was not really a mood ring.
Well, theoretically, if you get hot under the collar, you get upset, you heat up. And that would change the color to the whatever hotter.
But that's very misleading. Like, I had a girlfriend once and we bought it, and then I was like, "Baby, I think you're horny." I'm like, "No, I'm pissed off," and I was like, "Oh shit."
Well, clearly you just couldn't read the ring. Oh, dear. The other option that they actually had was liquid crystal nails. Now, sounds a bit like liquid crystal displays, and the concept was that, when they had liquid crystal displays, we don't tend to use them much anymore. We've moved past that technology, but you press on them and the colors would change. Like, you get a sort of a warping of the colors when you pressed on the screen. Remember that? You weren't supposed to do it, but I'm sure everybody did.
Yeah.
And it's the same deal with these nails. You press on them and it adjusts the color by contact. So there'd probably be two different colors, and you could change how much they were showing by pressing on the surface. But it's not nearly as cool as little screens on your nails that you can absolutely turn into exactly what you were seeing in Total Recall. So we did have the technology, it just didn't take off. Shucks.
Shame.
Yes. So that's what I wanted to cover today. I left Johnny Cab for you guys.
What about you, Robert? What you got to cover? Or would you like me to go first?
Well, I found the fact of the memory implant to be interesting. That would be
Ghost in the Shell.
the one thing that I want to cover. Only because I like to think that we're seeing the beginnings of that. I like to say that because we don't know what is going to come out of this research from Elon Musk and the the implants on humans. The gives you the ability. Well, what he says, the
That's what he said.
goal is to have a community. I mean, a future where we merge with AI, and that's the reason why he's actually working on this. But I find it very interesting because we don't know much. I mean, we know a lot from research, but I don't think we're at the point where we can actually read a brain. And I think this is what would be needed to be able to implant something that the brain would say it's real enough and it's not something made up. Um, and I know we're not there, right? But I think that what Elon Musk is experimenting with would be the next logical step in that research. I don't know where that's going to go, right? Because it's still in an experimental stage. But it would be, I think, that the logical step to move forward towards the future, kind of like what we see in the company Recall that we see in this film. I just found it interesting that
Well, I want to talk about the Mars colonization, but I kind of like threw that out already on my.
Yeah, you got to be careful. You got to rein yourself in during the main part of
bring
the
it
show.
home, bring it home.
Well, let me ask you guys: would you guys go to Mars with a one-way trip if you get the opportunity?
Nope.
No, knowing what I know, no. There's a lot
That's a lot of no's.
exactly. There's a lot of things that we don't have figured out yet that we need in order to have somewhat of a good time there.
Oh man, I would, and I will continue the show from there.
That would be awesome, you know?
Wow, that'd be a delay getting responses back, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Be way worse than his crappy internet connection.
Yeah, we'll have to do like a pre-record conversation. That will be a hassle.
We'll just get Robert to edit it all together because he'll do that.
Yeah, that's true. Well, the other thing I wanted to talk about, which is very slick the way they do it, but it's corporate power politics. To analyze the deception of corporate power and political intrigue in the film, considering the commentary on capitalism, globalization, and the influence of multinational corporations on society. And if you think about this, let's go conspiracy mode on. But I think of for example, we don't even know if we have big companies actually mining moons around Jupiter or Saturn, and these are resources that are very rich that can actually give a lot of profit here, but not everybody has the access to. And one of those videos that I told you I like watching about like future and stuff like that, how the human kind develops, that's one of the things that they say that we will use AI for, is to base them on places that are very hostile to humans, where mining operations need to be supervised but can be done with a person, because it will be a one-way ticket die over there.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting the way that they play it out. I mean, it gives you a hopeful message on the movie, though, because it always ends up in, at the end of the day, we the people have the power. And that's why they show that with unity, they were able actually to overcome this big problem. And with the help of an ancient machine that give free air to everybody and blue skies on Mars.
Yeah, and we got to thank John Carter for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. John Carter. Sudanga, you almost get away with it.
Oh, Robert, if you're going to link John Carter to before Total Recall, I'm going to link the Mechanicus from 40K to after Total Recall, because they have ancient alien technology on Mars that they revere as the machine god. So, yeah.
Hey, 100%, man.
Might as well.
Nice. All right, guys. And I think that with that, I want to thank everybody for coming to the show. I want to remember you guys that we have a website. You should go and visit it. Actually, I'm going to cover myself up right now. So if you're watching this video, you can scan the QR code on the screen and go and check it out. We write articles about things that we love, science, philosophical topics sometimes, mostly me, philosophical topics. There you go. There I am. But we take if you write articles and you're passionate about sci-fi, just reach us out. We wouldn't mind actually publishing the paper if it's actually good. It's short reads, nothing like an essay neither. I've written some of them, so that's a lot to say. We also have a new website called this is sci-fi.net. It's a website that Robert started. It's like a network for content creators and lovers of sci-fi. If you are one of those things, reach out. It's just a place for us to network and collaborate doing things that we love related to sci-fi. Also, I want to remember everybody that I would like to have a Shure microphone, but I don't have the money for that. So if you want, become a Patreon, and I could be talking sharply and nicely, thanks to you. Uh, Also, without much commitment, you know that I need to have my Monster can. They keep on saying coffee because it's really buying me a coffee if you think about it. And there's the link also if you like to donate something. Everything that you guys provide is highly appreciated. We do this for you, and all help is always great. Also, let me see. Am I forgetting something here?
No.
The hotline.
Oh
Thank you.
yes, the hotline, man. Uh, if you want to leave a message and you would like us to play it on the show, or if you like to leave also a question for us to answer in our next show, just give us a call and leave us a message at 305, and that goes 1-305-563-6334. 1-305-563-6334. Give us a call, and if you like, we'll be more than happy to play the message in the next uh, episode. And with that, I think that we will see you on our next episode, guys. Thank you for coming, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.